Volume 2, Chapter 5. We talked about the rankings in society in Chapter 4. Chapter 5 talks about the religious order of Tonga while Mariner was there. So we'll go into the religions. And Chapter 5 heading says the religion of Tonga Islands rests chiefly upon a belief of the following notions. Okay, number one, that there are otuas, gods or superior beings who have the power of dispensing good and evil to mankind according to their merit, but of whom origin they form no idea, rather supposing them to be eternal. So they believe in God. They've always believed in gods, otuas. And they bless or punish according to merit, according to what you do. And we've went over all the superstitions and so forth, and they believe that the otuas are responsible for both the blessings of a people or a person, as well as the curses and the calamities that fall upon them in society. Number two, that there are other otuas or gods, the souls of all deceased nobles and matapures, who have a like power of dispensing good and evil, but in an inferior degree. Okay, so they're ranking the gods now. So there is a god, or gods or superior beings up there, and they are the main guys that control the good and the evil, or the good and the punishment, the blessings and punishments of the people. And there are other gods that are lower, like chiefs, so they're putting them in rankings, who may have the same power but do it in a more inferior degree. Number three, that there are besides several otua pau, pau. I think it says P-O-W, but I think it means pau, perhaps, unless they really does mean otua pau, or mischievous gods. See, so mischievous means pau. So otua pau, whose attribute is never to dispense good, but petty evils and troubles, not as a punishment, but indiscriminately from a pure mischievous position. So there's a tuapau who just passes out calamities indiscriminately, right? Curses or bad things that happen in amongst the people. There's a God that does that, that passes that out. And that reminds me of the Eternals. Is that the one with all the gods, or the ones that there's a movie that has something like that? A good god, a bad god, the different types of gods. So they're believing similar to mythology. Four, that all these superior beings, although they had a beginning, will have no end. Interesting. Their belief in God is almost similar to our beliefs in God today, as far as God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? These superior beings, although they had a beginning, will have no end. We believe they have no beginning and no end. They've always existed throughout the eons or eternities, right? Okay, good morning. All right. Number five, that the world also is of doubtful origin. So they don't know where the world comes from. And coexistent with the gods, the solid sky, and the heavenly bodies, and the ocean being pre-existent to the habitable earth, and that the Tongan islands were drawn out of the water by the god Tangaloa. That's common in Polynesia. Tangaloa is common in Polynesia as a god throughout Polynesia. So they're saying that uh, Tangaloa is the god that drew up the islands out of the water while fishing with a line hook. Okay, this is where mythology really takes its place in our beliefs in the ancient belief of gods. So Tangaloa pulled up the Tonga Islands while he was fishing with a line hook. Number six, that mankind, according to a partial tradition, first came from Pulotu, or the spirit world, the chief residence of the gods, and resided at the Tonga Islands by command of Tangaloa. So this is where all these stories and passed down throughout the generations come from. And just like the movie Maui, right, or Moana, it's this type of mentality where they don't really know, but they're just saying throughout the tradition of our belief is that mankind came from a spirit world where all the chiefs resides, or in the gods resided, and that uh, Tonga Islands was Tangaloa was sent to stay in Tonga, or that the first part of mankind was sent to stay in Tonga by the command of Tangaloa. They consisted of two brothers with their wives and attendants whose original they know nothing about. So two brothers were sent to stay in Tonga with their wives and attendants. And those attendants sometimes were wives or concubines, but they were mainly handmaids of wives, right? As we read throughout the story, the wives had handmaids as well to assist them in all their duties. That all human evil is inflicted by the gods. Number 7, that all human evil is inflicted by the gods upon mankind on account of some neglect of religious duty, either in the person or persons who suffer the inflictions, or in the Aki or chief whom they serve, and the contrary of good. Okay. So it's saying that all human evil is inflicted by the gods upon mankind. So anything that happens that's bad, the gods made it happen, right? Because they neglected religious duty, and we've seen that through, and it's created all kinds of superstitions, right? All kinds of religious duties throughout the story. When they feel like something bad happens, something was neglected, and that's why the gods are punishing them, right? Throughout the story. So it all says, or in the Aki or chief of whom they serve. So your chief may have done something bad that may have brought calamity to you and your family, depending on the chief you serve as well. They have to be good people, or else you're all going to be cursed. And the last part, contrary of good. Any action that you do that's contrary to good, they feel like if you did something that's contrary to good, the gods will curse you or bring destruction or calamities to you and your people, your family, or you to yourself, right? So a lot of this has to do with superstition all in the first place, but they're also accrediting any evil that comes from the gods to the chiefs as well, but also behavior. Number 8, that all Akis or nobles have souls, which exist hereafter in Pulotu, or the spirit world, not according to their moral merit, but their rank in this world, and then they have power similar to the original gods, but less. Okay? The Matapules also go to Pulotu, or spirit world, after death. There they exist as Matapules, or ministers to the gods, but they have not the power of inspiring priests. The Mu'as, according to the belief of some, also go to Pulotu, but this is a matter of great doubt. So they're not even sure if Mu'as get to go to the spirit world. But the Tu'as, they have no souls, or such only as dissolve with the body after death, which consequently ends their sentient existence. Okay? So they're saying this is it. If you're a noble, you go to the spirit world and you become a chief there, below the gods, under the high chiefs in the spirit world, right? They go by rankings. They think that you're ranked over there in the spirit world. And the Matapules also, right? The chiefs, nobles, Matapules. The Mu'as, they're not sure if they go, but they probably hope. But if you're a Tu'a, you have no spirit, you have no soul, you're not going. You're not going to the spirit world. This is what Tonga believed back then. If you're a Tu'a, right? So if you're the ones with the low class, the low rankings that don't have any aspirations, or you have no ambition to become something great, and you maintain your peasant status because you have no ambition, they believe that those type of people, because they don't use the full extent of their mind and souls to become something great, that they just aren't great at all. They have no souls. They go, as soon as they die, there's whatever they have, the spirit, they don't believe they have spirits or souls. They just die, right? They're done. After this life, they're done. Okay? Number 9 belief of Tonga back then, that the soul during life is not a distinct essence from the body, but only the more ethereal part of it, which exists in Pulotu, in the form and likeness of the body, the moment after death. So this is similar to what we believe today. The soul during life is not a distinct essence from the body, but only the moral ethereal part of it. So he's almost describing, well, he's describing the soul, the spirit, right? That existed in Pulotu, have here this form in body, and then when you die, you go to the spirit world and you have the same form of body, and that happens immediately after death, or the moment after death, right? Which we believe almost similar, damn near the same thing. That number 10, that the primitive gods and deceased nobles sometimes appear visibly to mankind to warn or to afford comfort and advice. Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, we still believe that today. That the primitive gods also sometimes come into the bodies of lizards, porpoises, and a species of water snake. Hence, these animals are much respected. Their coming into porpoises is supposed to be for the purpose of taking care of vessels, etc. So if we worship, or if any Polynesian island worships, or at least praises a certain animal of the sea, it's because we believe that they're being possessed either by a chief that have passed away or a god that have passed away, right? That's what he's saying. Primitive gods also sometimes come into the bodies of lizards, porpoises, and the species of water snakes. Hence, these animals are much respected. So there you go. If there are animals in the sea, lizards, porpoises, and water snakes, they are being treated as if there are necklaces always being made, right, of turtle necklaces. And I'm assuming this is where the origin comes from, because gods possess some of the oceans, the animals of the sea, and they come here to warn, right? We also believe, as far as dreams, even in Tonga today, we believe that in dreams, gods come, or people come, or whoever comes, and we see them in dreams, right? And we believe that our ancestors come and visit us in our dreams. And I talked about the theory of, while we're sleeping, what is our spirit doing if our spirit is still awake? And the theory was, it is contemplating. It is the spirit then goes into a realm of frequency, right? It connects into the frequency of other souls, or the frequency of souls, and perhaps receive communication, like a radio, receiving communication through that realm. And that's how we receive warnings and whatnot. It says right here, the primitive gods, deceased nobles sometimes appear visibly to mankind to warn or afford comfort and advice. That is like common too. To warn or afford comfort and advice. We believe that. Like, we believe that literally now, right? Whether in dreams or just in person or whatever it is, we do practice the sense of sensing, or, of sensing each other, even after death. Like, I feel like, my grandfather here. I feel like my grandmother was there, wherever, whether it's a graduation or a wedding or a funeral or anywhere else. We all have I don't know if it's a suspicious or a sense, right? We sense it, that people close to us are there that have passed on, by feeling it. And it's almost like practicing using the Force in the Jedi, right? As a Jedi. As a Jedi, in the Force, when you feel the Force as a Jedi, you sense things. And when people say, I sense that my grandmother was here at my graduation, or I sense that my dad was here at my, when I was in the military or on a mission or whatever, it's practicing that, sensing that Force, the Jedi Force, right? Or whatever that is, right? Number 11, that the two personages known by the name of Tuitonga and Veakai are descendants in a right line from two chief gods, and that all respect and veneration is therefore due to them. Tuitonga, now we know Tuitonga, the name has always been throughout history. Veakai has been buried somewhere, right? And I've already said we talked about my theory on Veakai because I know a guy named Veainu, and it sounds similar as far as what the purposes are for Veakai and Veainu, right? Eating and drinking. And the most important part of the eating ceremonies or ordinances would be the inasi, which Tuitonga receives, right? That's a Veakai. And then the most important drinking ordinance in Tonga is the kava. And a Veainu would be the person next to that person, right? It means next to or next in line. So I'm assuming that Tuitonga and Veakai, they say they're related, descended from gods, but nobody can tell me. I've asked many what a Veakai is. I've asked Matapules, I've asked Faifekaos, I've asked, they just don't know what that is. And Veakai was buried in history. Anyways, if there are two brothers that come from gods, it isn't just Tuitonga as far as Tonga is concerned. Veakai is one of those guys. Number 12, that some persons are favored with the inspiration of the gods by an actual existence of the god for the time being in the person so inspired who is then capable of prophesying. So they believe in revelation. They believe that whoever is the god, the chief, or whoever above them from ancient times can possess them at least for a moment to give a message. And that's typically what the priest did for the Tongan people in Tonga. Some persons are favored with the inspiration of the gods. Those were the vahekehes, the priests, by an actual existence of the god for a time being in the person who is so inspired, who is then capable of prophesying. There you go. An inspired man. It's usually the priest who speaks for the god. And everybody listens. Number 13, that human merit or virtue consists chiefly in paying respect to the gods, nobles, and aged persons. Human merit. You have merit or virtue. If you have these things, it consists chiefly in paying respect to the gods. So the more religious you are, it seems like, respect to the gods, nobles, and aged persons, and old folks, right? Respecting the elders. Your human merit or your value of being a human increases, and in defending one's hereditary rights. Honor, justice, patriotism, friendship, meekness, modesty, fidelity of married women, parental and filial love, observance of all religious ceremonies, patience in suffering. Tell me where you've heard those traits before. Listen to those traits. A human merit or virtue consists chiefly in paying respect to the gods, right? And then the nobles and the old people, the elders, and in defending your hereditary rights. But look at these words: honor, justice, patriotism, friendship, meekness, modesty, fidelity of married women, parental and filial love, observance of all religious ceremonies, right? So at least having reverence. It's saying if you're reverent, and patience in suffering. Do those not sound like words or characteristics from the scriptures? And these guys weren't, they didn't have scriptures. They didn't know how to read or write. This is before scripture, before reading and writing. But for Mariner to give almost a description of words that you can find in James chapter 5, verse 22 or whatever, the gifts of the fruits of the Spirit to be found, for Mariner to say, yeah, these guys, this is what they believe are good characteristics, are good traits. And then you can find these same traits in the scriptures as well, is interesting at the very least, right? That all rewards, for number 14, that all rewards for virtue or punishments for vice happen to men in this world only and come immediately from the gods. Now, that obviously we don't truly believe now, right? That you're just punished here and punished here only, and then you go to heaven. We don't believe that, not in its entirety. But it's still a at least logical belief for people, a savage people who didn't know anything else about God. This is just their belief. This is before Christianity. This is their belief as far as what they believe gods are. They believe that when you're here on earth, you'll be punished for you'll be rewarded for all your virtues and punished for all your misdeeds in this world and this world only. And then when you go to the next world, you're good. Once Christianity came around, they have taught us a little bit more, gave us a little bit more structure, and a lot of us believe in Christianity because they share the same virtues. As far as what happens, what happened before and what happens after, it's still similar. It's not that far off. And that's why I believe Polynesia, as far as Christianity is concerned, it's so close. The virtues, the behaviors, and the preachings and teachings of love, and this list, right? Honor, justice, patience, friendship, meekness, modesty, is so closely tied to Christianity that a lot of the Tongans became Christians once Christianity showed up in Tonga or in all of Polynesia, right? For the most part, they're Christian. Number 15, that several acts acknowledged by all civilized nations as crimes are under many circumstances considered by them as matters of indifference, such as revenge, killing a servant who has given provocation. Excuse me. I always have freaking nose troubles. All right, so number 15 is several acts of acknowledged by civilized nations. So there are some things that England or Great Britain, when Mariner went over there, that they acknowledge as bad, that these guys didn't acknowledge. Like he's saying right here, considered by them as matters of indifference. They're just indifferent to it. They're just whatever to it. Such as revenge, killing a servant who has given provocation, or anybody else, provided it be not a very superior chief or noble. Rape, provided it be not upon a married woman or one to whom respect is due on the score of superior rank from the perpetrator. Look at that right there. Rape. So he's saying that several acts acknowledged by all civilized nations as crimes are under many circumstances considered by them as matters of indifference. So we're talking about killing. Okay, so he's saying revenge, they're saying it's whatever. Killing a servant who has given provocation, or a servant who has either talked back or is provoking the chief, if the chief ends up killing that servant, they don't look at it as a crime. Nor do they look at killing as a crime if it's revenge. And I'm thinking it's because if there's somebody avenges a father or avenges somebody that killed one of theirs, right? Just like the Tupo Niwa and the Tupo Toa thing with Tuku Aho, the avenging was justified to them. As a people, they justified killing. There are some killings that they justified as a people, and then once they heard about it, then cool, it's whatever. But at the same time, they walk around and they're going to have to watch their back because revenge is going to come back around again, right? Unless it's the noble, okay. Rape, they were like whatever for rape. As long as it wasn't upon a married woman or one to whom respect is due. So they didn't consider rape that bad as long as the woman wasn't married or as long as the woman isn't a chief or of high rank. on the score of superior rank from the perpetrator. So as long as she wasn't higher than the perpetrator, they were just like, whatever. Damn, that's interesting. How do they live like that? Well, when you live in a society where ranking is everything, rank is everything, then the lower ranks would have nothing else to say, right? So, Jesus Christ is God, yes. Yahweh is Almighty and has begun. Yes, 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 yes. Malo, malo. Oh, we're in Mariner's book, volume 2, talking about religion. And these are the list of religious beliefs. Okay. All right. Theft, except it be consecrated property. So even theft, they didn't have a problem with, as long as the property that you're stealing isn't consecrated. Now, in this is just my own experience when I lived in Tonga, is theft was because everybody didn't nobody. It wasn't a big deal because nobody had anything worth, you know, fussing about back then. So, and everybody had the same stuff, right? Everybody had the same animals. It may be a tool or something, but the theft was rare anyway because really nobody really had anything to steal. But it wasn't like egregious or anything. But they're saying right here, as long as the property wasn't consecrated, they really didn't bother with theft. Number 16, omens are considered direct indications of the gods to mankind. We kind of believe that already right now. Omens, direct indications of of the gods to mankind. Charms or superstitious ceremonies to bring evil upon anyone are considered for the most part infallible, as being generally effective means to dispose the gods in accord with the curse of the malevolent invoker. To perform these charms is considered cowardly and unmanly, but does not constitute a crime. Oh, okay. So we're talking about witchcraft here because they're saying if you wanted to charms or superstitious ceremonies to bring evil upon anyone are considered for the most part infallible. So it's just not punishable, right? It's just not punishable. It's, you're trying to get the gods to be on your side and to do something, curse somebody. There's people that curse each other today, according with the curse of the malevolent invoker, and people invoke that all the time now. But nothing happens, and no, it's just whatever. It's just people getting emotional and getting mad, and trying to invoke the gods when really their emotion has no power or control. It's just them trying to get under people's skin. To perform these charms is considered cowardly and unmanly, but does not constitute a crime. There you go. That's what they considered it. If you were to curse somebody, back then they considered it cowardly and unmanly, but whatever. But that's still interesting. Now, if I ever hear somebody curse or invoke the gods for their purposes, I'm gonna be like, oh, according to our ancestors, that's cowardly and unmanly, buddy. Can't be doing that. The Tonga people universally and positively believe in the existence of a large island lying at a considerable distance to the northwest of their own islands, which they consider to be the place of residence of their gods and of the souls of their nobles and matapuras. So they believe that there's a physical place where when you die, you go to. That's just northwest of Tonga. Northwest. Okay? This island is supposed to be much larger than all their own islands put together, to be well stocked with all kinds of useful and ornamental plants, always in a state of high perfection, and always bearing the richest fruits and the most fruitful flowers, according to their respective natures, that when these fruits or flowers are plucked, others immediately occupy their place, and that the whole atmosphere is filled with the most delightful fragrance that the imagination can conceive. So they believe that there's an island somewhere, and the only place, because they're in Tonga, the only place that's northwest of Tonga at this point is probably New Zealand, right? And this place that they're talking about, I wonder if they're talking about New Zealand. That would make sense in a story that I have about the Maoris and the Marihaka and all that. All right, let's see. Where's Tonga? So from New Zealand, northwest, when you look at on the maps, it's hard to freaking make out. Oh, where's this? What's this right here? Auckland Island, Motumaha. Damn. That's crazy that Palangis came around and then they named it themselves, you know? Just like Wallace and Futuna, the Cook Islands, when they already had their own name, right? And the names were Tonga Leva, right? Lalo Tonga or Rarotonga. That shows you that the connections of all these places, these islands, were discovered before the Western world even got there, because they already had names even before. Of course, we'll never get credit for that because we were too small. You can't credit small places. So it looks like mostly it's going to be it's not New Zealand. Where are we? Anyways, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Solomon Islands. Damn, Australia is freaking huge, huh? I wonder if they're talking about Australia, because Northwest would be. Anyways, yeah, Tonga's north of New Zealand. That's the belief at this point in time. Okay, this island is supposed to be much larger than all their own islands put together, to be well stocked with all kinds of useful ornaments. So they're saying that it's a perfect place. If you were to pick a flower, another flower would immediately grow, right? The storytelling is always a great story, right? And they make it better and better, because it's sounding like Willy Wonka's freaking chocolate factory when they went up in there and everything was edible. That's what this is sounding like. It's like, yeah, dude, I want Bucky flower. I tupu vave my bit for flower. Like, Shana. Great story though, you know. When you're in an island with no TV and no nothing, you don't read or write, all you have is conversation. If you're on an island where there's no, obviously back then, nobody reads or writes. they all just talk. Nobody even they may draw, but um, for the most part, all they have is storytelling. That's all they have. So of course the story is going to get better. They're saying there's a spirit world, a place northwest of here, where all the dead chiefs and all the dead people go. Pulotu, spirit world. And it's so beautiful over there, the fragrance and, things you can't even imagine, flowers and things. You pick fruits over there and another fruit takes its place immediately. Oh, snap, right? The island is also well stocked with beautiful birds and of all imaginable kinds, as well as with abundance of hogs, all of which are immortal unless they are killed to provide food for the gods. But the moment a hog or bird is killed, another living hog or bird immediately comes into existence to supply its place, the same as which the fruits and flowers, and this, as far as they know or suppose, is the only mode of propagation of plants and animals. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, if you go over there to the spirit world and you kill the pig, dude, another one just pops out of somewhere. You know what I mean? If you kill a chicken to eat some chicken and feed the chiefs, another chicken just pops out of somewhere. That's what they're telling each other. That's the story of the spirit world or the next life, or where if you die, you go to this place, right? And you can make another Moana movie off of these beliefs right here. And have a great movie story to tell in a movie. The island of Pulotu, or the spirit world, is supposed to be so far off as to render it dangerous to attempt going there. And it is supposed, moreover, that even if they were to succeed in reaching so far, unless it happened to be the particular will of the gods, they would be sure to miss it. So I guess they say that so that you don't attempt to go there. They tell this whole story about you go to this place, the spirit world where all the gods are and all the chiefs and all our ancestors are. You pick fruits and other fruits grow in their place. You kill a pig to eat, and another pig grows in its place, or a chicken or whatever else. You know what I mean? All of that. And of course you're gonna have curious minds be like, damn, Northwest you say? And then they'll be like, nah, you can't go there though, man. You know what I mean? See how convenient this is? You can't go there though, dude, because it's too dangerous. And over there, and they would make up the story. They're over there, the volcanoes around it to protect it are always going off and it's shooting out lava and all sorts of storms and stuff. There's no way of getting in there. The only way you get there if the gods allow you, but regular people can't go there. Of course, right? So a lot of these Moana type stories, if you will, um, myth and mythology and legend are great stories. Um, but they had to be there to explain where and answer, right? Just to have an answer, that's what it is. But you still can't go there, right? Okay. They give, however, an account of a Tonga canoe, which on her return from the Fiji Islands a long time ago, was driven by stress of weather to Pulotu. Ignorant of the place where they were, and being much in want of provisions, seeing the country abound in all sorts of fruit, the crew landed and proceeded to pluck some breadfruit. But to their unspeakable astonishment, they could no more lay hold of it than if it were a shadow. They walked through the trunks of the trees and passed through the substance of the houses, which were built like those of Tonga, without feeling any resistance. So they're saying that the whole place is a spirit place, right? They're walking through houses and all that in the spirit. They at length saw some of the Otuas, or the gods, who passed through their bodies as if there were nothing there, and recommended them to go away immediately as they had no proper food for them, promising them a fair wind and a speedy passage. They accordingly put directly to sea, and in 2 days sailing with the utmost velocity, they arrived at Hamoa, the Navigator's Islands, or Samoa. at which place they wanted to touch before they went to Tonga. Having remained at Hamwa 2 or 3 days, they sailed for Tonga, where they arrived with great speed, but in the course of a few days, they all died, not as a punishment for having been at Pulotu, but as a natural consequence. The air of Pulotu, as it were, infecting mortal bodies with speedy death. See how we entertained ourselves in Tonga back then? And this would be an entertaining way to tell them. So, yeah, there are guys that have been to Pulotu, though. But as soon as they got there and they walked through the trees and the houses and the people, and like they're walking through like spirits, they pass right through. Eh? Ano tol humay na tol yo fala ka pe kiki hake po ki daw lava o hala ka taha, right? And then he said, "Iyo panawalu, how now toluya?" And this is obviously, in my own opinion, as judgment, it's obviously to scare people not to try to go there. They said they came back. They stopped in Hamoa, and then they came back, and then they died. But not because they were being punished, but the air over there, yeah, it was too much for their lungs, and it made them sick. It was too pure, I guess, and then it made them sick, and they died. So there are a couple of stories, which is great stories, to make people avoid Pulotu and not make the attempt. But at the same time, Pulotu could be a freaking another animated movie that you could call Pulotu, and it's a story about Tongans trying to get to the spirit world. This right here, you just told another Moana story just right here on these passages. If you ask me, there's an entire story in here, right? Have a guy named Shione or something, or maybe a real Tongan name from back then, an attempt to go to Pulotu. And right there in Tonga, and then they talk about Pulotu a lot in the spirit world, right? And then he attempts to go there. After all the stories of warnings of not to go there, and have go there. That Disney, where you at? This right here is another a story, right? Oh, the camera's backwards. Sorry, I need to freaking flip this camera at some point. Sorry. Maybe I'll flip the flag, but then it'll be backwards to me. But it's backwards to you. Okay, maybe I'll flip the flag next time for the camera. All right. Funny. Okay. Where were we? Oh, the air infecting their mortal bodies with speedy death. Okay. The Otuas, or gods, are supposed to have no canoes, not requiring them, for if they wish to be anywhere, there they are the moment the wish is felt. Now, we believe this as far as gods and how spirits and gods and resurrected beings travel. He's saying right here, because we believe that in that form, you can travel by thought. That's the speed of travel from a spirit's point of view, or a resurrected point of view. You travel at the speed of thought. Look at what they believe. The Otuas are supposed to have no canoes, not requiring them, for if they wish to be anywhere, there they are the moment they wish. The wish is felt, right? That's the speed of thought. They believed that back then. Interesting. The Otuas, or supernatural intelligent beings, may be divided into classes. Okay, we're going to rank the gods now. Let's rank the gods according to what they believed back then. Number one, the original gods. Number two, the souls of nobles, having all attributes in common with the first, but inferior in degree. Okay. The souls of matapunes, or nobles, they're still inferior. So it goes gods, and then the nobles, and then matapunes are inferior, and have not the power, as to the first have, of coming back to Tonga to inspire the priests. Okay, they don't have that power. Though they are supposed to have the power of appearing to their relatives. Okay, so the top guys, there's 3 levels that he told us about. He told us the god, or the Atua, the original ones. And then you have the souls of the nobles, or the next level. And then you have the Matapures. Now, the original gods can go in and inspire people to speak for them. Revelation, right? The lower ones, they can only go appear to them. Appear to them without giving you a message. I don't know why you would want to do that or believe that, but all you can do is appear to them. Well, now that's a scary ghost, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just gonna appear to me? Like, no, like give me a sense, I want to telekinesis with the spirit. I don't want you to just appear to me. That's scary. Don't do that. Appear to me and then send me a message so that I know you're a friendly, right? Um Number 4, the original attendants or servants, as it were, of the gods, who, although they had their origin and have ever since existed in Pulotu, are still inferior to the third class. The original attendants or servants of the gods, although they had their origin and have ever since existed in Pulotu, or the spirit world, are still inferior to the Matapunes. Okay, so it's gods, nobles, Matapunes, and then the attendants of the original gods. That's what they're lighting up here, it sounds like. The Otuapau, or mischievous gods. Those are the next one in line. That's number 5. And number 6, Mui, or God that supports the earth. Oh, Mo'ui. My bad. Mo'ui. They had 3 O's, but it's Mo'ui. Or God that supports the earth and does not belong to Pulotu. Mo'ui means life or alive. There's a Mo'ui God. Does not belong to Pulotu. There you go. There's the ranking of the gods. Interesting. The first class or original Otua or God are supposed to be rather numerous. There's a lot of them. Okay. Perhaps about 300. What? But the names of very few are known, and those only to some of the chiefs of Matapunes. For it may easily be supposed that where no written records are kept, only those who attributes particularly concern the affairs of this world should be much talked of. Well, I mean, you're going to worship who you worship and pass that person down until the next generations forget them, and then you're going to worship somebody else, like it seems like they've done. So, yeah, there are original gods, but after a few generations, you're not even going to know who that person is, right? Unless you maintain righteousness and never strayed far from the truth. As far as the rest, they are, for the most part, merely tutelar gods to particular private families. So you have a god of your own family, tutelar gods. And having nothing in their history at all interesting, are scarcely known to anybody else. Well, there you go. There's nothing interesting about their god, so they're scarcely known to anybody else. So each family would have a god, and if you have a god of your own family or your own people or tribe or whatever, that's who your god belongs to. That's who you belong to, or as far as that's the god you worship, and nobody else outside of the family or outside of the village or outside of your area would know your god. So it seems like there are a lot of gods or god worshiping. It's not just the ones that we know today, like Tagalo and all those guys. What he's saying that there's a lot of gods that were barely known to anybody because they were just the gods of those families, right? Which means everybody is searching. Everybody is in search of a god. Everybody in Tonga at this point, if they have their own gods, then everybody is in search. Who do they believe? Who do they want to believe? They're all looking for something, right? To believe. Because he's saying there are main gods that the kings and the rulers and the nobles and chiefs and matapules believe in, and those are known, right? They're known because they're talked about. But there are lower people and lower orders and lower gods based on the people who worship them that nobody really knows. So Christianity then becomes a blessing when they show up to Tonga because it unifies all our beliefs in principle. Because we all believe in all the same things as far as what's good, what's right. So for this Jesus guy to show up and say, these are the attributes of God's, for that list to match the list that Meredith gave of the attributes of Tongans, Christianity was a no-brainer for Tongans because that's basically what we believe, right? Let's see. Being afraid makes people have power over other people. Yes, yes, yes. I think that was used a lot too as a superstition, and we know that through Finau Ulukalala, always using superstition to rule over people. Scaring people gives. Oh yeah, sure. Others. Abandon religion and unite in love, respect, etc. Religion is division, but saying they're believing is the same God and the same God. How to define that? I wouldn't mind that, but seeing as they were all divided in different religions in Tonga back then, for a Christ or a God to come up like this and for us to unite in it, I do believe what you're saying as far as the institutions. Because if we're all Christian and we all, believe in Jesus Christ and died for us and all that, but the divide is the institutions. Yeah, that's where I'm with you. As far as what if we took the walls out with the differences between the institutions and say, all right, let's just worship Jesus, worship God. We're all unified now because it's the same person, same Jesus, and the same stories and whatnot. But at the same time, there has to be order. And so everybody creates their own order and how to believe to make sure that the rest who believe the same way are in order. So that's the difference, and I think that's necessary too. Our God came to dwell among us, his flesh, walked the earth, and put to death 3 days later, rose from the tomb, and lives today. Yes, amen. Christianity is just another religion. The world is still divided. We're all Christian, bro. What? Yeah. Um, I think the semantics is dividing. I think the institutions are dividing. But as long as we take the principles of what we know and say, all right, you know what? What if we removed all the institutions and all the walls? Now what? Right? Now what? We take down all the walls and all the institutions, take them away. Now what? Who do we believe in? What do we believe in? Of course, there's always going to be people that rise up, whether they rise up for the true purpose of preaching God, or they rise up for the purpose of making themselves wealthy and rich, and so on, so forth. That's all over the place, right? There's 45,000 different Christian denominations based on who wants to preach and say what it is. But yeah, you are right. There is division, but I guess those are the evils we have to deal with, or at least the discrepancies you have to deal with, and everybody trying to organize and follow and do it the right way and all of that. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, let's all just love each other because we all believe in God and we all believe we're God's children. Many false teachers creep in and walk as sheep, but are truly wolves. Sure, I absolutely believe that. I also believe that in order to tell the difference is you're going to have to use your sense yourself, right? Run it, study it in your mind and sense, just like you would judge anybody, what type of person and personality is. Are you a good judge of character, right? Is anybody who preaches God, are they all good? Or can you judge the ones that are, I don't know about this one or that one or whatever, right? I think God gives all of us the conscious or the light enough to know and recognize which ones are true and which ones are false, or do it for the wrong purpose. What is this argument? What semantics or walls? I'm just talking about the different religions and beliefs and how everybody is so focused on the critical details of the Bible or critical details of scripture, of what Jesus said, of in the scriptures. Like they're still so critical on verse for verse, and they go back and forth on it. Like, what's the purpose? That's dividing. Yeah, I believe that's dividing. Um, I believe you can, teach or preach your truth or whatever, your religion or Christ or God, and then at the end of the day, if you can say, but at the end of the day, we're all God's children, and I love you nonetheless, whatever. We may believe it differently, but many roads lead to one destination, right? That's the semantics I'm talking about. Like, what do we focus on verse for verse for? What are we battling? The principles are all the same. Love is the same. It's not you're gonna have to love this way or love that way or whatever, right? Or just being a good person, right? The One of the lists that we spoke of earlier is, what is your list of good behavior? And does that list or those principles, do they come from the scriptures? They come from you just being a good person? Do you not believe in God or Christ, but do have a list of principles that you live by? Like that. That is enough. Then you don't have to go into any details of, well, Christ said this. Well, what do you think is a good person? Makes up a good person or good characters, good in society, and appreciates freedom and liberties and being considerate to everybody, to your neighbors and whatnot. Like, all of that is enough, even without religion. I knew guys that weren't even religious and didn't believe in God at all. I knew one of my best friends, a person that I looked at up to as a father figure, and I have three father figures: my father and this guy Mike Gibson, and my boxing coach, who all three of them had passed away already. But these are men that taught me things that I didn't know, believed different things, but still wanted to educate, and gave me a certain set of standards in boxing, in electrical, as far as business, and then my father in everything else, in religion and everything else. Three different men from three different worlds. I love them all the same. I consider them all fathers or father figures because of the information and the instruction. But the atheist still was a good guy. What am I going to say? He wasn't a good guy? Wasn't going to love him or whatever? That's what I mean by semantics and institutions as far as breaking it all down. Non-denominational Christian. Yeah. Oh, by their fruit, their love of people, you will know them. Yes, true. Hi, hi. That's why there's non-denominational Christian. Yeah. Yeah, there's Christians that's non-denominational. They're just Bible people, right? Jesus people. They don't attach themselves to any denomination. All they're saying is, hey, man, we read the Bible and that's it, y'all. We don't want to be a part of any group. We just want to read the Bible. Whatever we feel is from it, that's it. There's a lot of those, right? And that's all good, too. The list I discern by... But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such, there is no law. Okay? And then there's, like, this list right here. Like, if we were to specify to that list of those words, is that it? What I'm saying is, all those words have synonyms of all kinds. And you may not find these specific words in your own, or, not everybody will have those specific words or say those things, but there are a lot of words that mean those things. But that's what I mean. Are we just going to say, no, in the scripture, in the verse, this is what he says? Are there synonyms that mean that you can just live by? Yeah. You know what I mean? Just by being good. But we're going on into the next god here in Tonga, if anybody's wondering. I'm reading a book that has to do with the island of Tonga. I'm Tongan, and that brought my interest into this. And this is from before religion, before Christianity, before the Western world got to the Pacific Islands. This is what they believe in the Pacific. So we're talking about Moana in those days, before they were able to read and write, before the white man, before Christianity and all of that. This is those days. There is a English boy that grew up in Tonga or that lived in Tonga for 4 years. After he was educated in England, he is 15 and he moves to Tonga, or he gets shipwrecked, or they actually attack the ship and take over it. And he lives in Tonga. Now he's talking about, he writes it all out in a story, and now he's writing about the gods of Tonga from before Christianity or before the Western world. And that's what I'm reading. I'm just reading the religious ceremonies of my own people before Christianity got there. So I'm Tongan from Tonga. But yeah, Samoa's near there, Fiji, Cook Islands, Easter Islands, French Polynesia, Hawaii, New Zealand, Australia. All those are part of what back in the 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s, were part of the Polynesian Triangle. They call it Austronesia, but Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia as well. So there, we do have ties to all of them. Anyways, this is just me reading the religious beliefs of them from back then, way back then. And we're talking about the gods. Okay, let's see. Where were we? Several of these primitive otuas have houses dedicated to them. The houses are built in the usual style, but generally somewhat more care is taken, both in building them and in keeping them in good order, decorating their closures with flowers, etc. About 20 of the gods have houses thus consecrated to them, some having 5 or 6, others 1 or 2. Damn! 20 gods have houses thus consecrated to them, and some of them even have 5 or 6, and others have 1 or 2. The following are the names and attributes of the principal gods. So now we're going to read about the gods. Now we're going to read about the gods in Tonga, back before Christianity, before reading and writing. Okay, the first god, here we go. Tariai Tupo. The literal meaning of this name, from which nothing can be deduced, is wait there, Tupo. Tariai means wait there. And Tupo is the god. Tariai Tupo. Meredith doesn't go into any details of Tariai Tupo or what that even means. He is the patron of the Hau and his family, not of Finau in particular, who is the present king, but of anyone who may be king. He is also a god of war. God of war. Tariai Tupo is the god of war, and is consequently always invoked in time of war by the Hau's party, or the champions. So this Tariai Tupo guy is the god of war. That's why Finau Ulukalala always invoked him. Right? Every time Finau went to war, he went to the house, the religious house, or the house of the god of Tariai Tupo every time. No wonder that was his god. It never said why Tariai Tupo, throughout the story, why Tariai Tupo was Finau's god. But now we see that it's because he was the god of war. Okay. In time of peace, he is also occasionally invoked for the general good of the nation. He has 4 houses dedicated to him in the island of Vava'u, 2 at the small island of Lifuka, and 1 at Ha'ano, 1 at Uiha, and 2 or 3 others of smaller importance elsewhere. So these are basically chapels or a church. If you were to have a church of the same, religion, did the same thing, they built chapels for him. In Vava'u, on Lifuka, Ha'ano, Uiha, Tariai Tupo has a house dedicated to him there, which means there is a priest that'll speak for him from those those houses. He has no priest, unless it be the Hau himself, whom he sometimes inspires, but it has happened that a Hau, or a champion, during his whole reign has not been inspired. So Finau has always gone to Taliatupo's house and has always invoked him. But I thought he always went there with a priest and told the priest to call Taliatupo to inspire them. Because Finau was a warmonger. Tuifua Pulotu, the literal meaning, this is the next god. So Taliatupo is one. The next one is Tuifua Pulotu. Tuifua Pulotu. Now, Tuifua now is a common name. Pulotu is a common name. Tuifua Pulotu. Both first names and last name. Pulotu is I know Pulotu first name. But Tuifua Pulotu is the next god after Taliatupo. The literal meaning of this is chief of all Pulotu, or the spirit world. From this name, one would suppose him to be the greatest god in Pulotu, but he is inferior to one before mentioned. So he's inferior to Taliatupo, is what he's saying. How he came by this name, the natives themselves can give no account. Of course, the natives can give no account of a lot of things, but Mariner has already said that 4 or 5 generations ago, the Finaus came into power over military force back in either the early 17s or even the 1600s, right? So a lot of the stories were passed down through families, through tradition, through religion, and passed down with the intensity or the drama of the gods for them to keep that story going, right? Tari Tupo is who you want to invoke when we go to war. Tuifua Pulotu is who you want to invoke to save you or whatever it is. To make sure you get to the spirit world. So it says, how he came by this name, the natives themselves can give no account, which means he probably came, that name probably just went down through the generations and just slipped by without the story being attached to it. Passed out through song, sure. Song, writing now, but typically stories and song was the main thing. And the family stories, I feel like, and it's crazy that they relied wholly on telling the next generation, right? So you have thousands of little huts in Tonga or in Polynesia or wherever who meet up every night before they go to bed, and the mother or the father, whether the fireplace or not the fireplace, the fireside or wherever, and they're telling stories. They would move around in the village. I remember going in the village, sitting next to a fire of somebody else's and hearing their stories, whether it's the parents or the older brothers, hearing their stories of history of, and then you go to another fire of another friend, and because there's no TVs, we're just talking there. This is back in if this is the early 80s, can't imagine in the 1800s when all they did was go around and sit around and tell stories and talk around fire, around kava, right? And it's funny how they correlate kava and fire as far as, sitting around two things for the purpose of passing down history, passing down stories, passing down religion, because they don't know where Tuifua Pulotu comes from. But it was passed down nonetheless, right? The only answer they make is that such is his proper name. Oh, so that was just the name of the guy that they decided to, because remember, some of them are just chiefs that pass that become gods. So his name when he lived on earth probably was Tuifua Pulotu. Although he is the god of Pulotu, he is inferior to Tariaitupo in so much that they scarcely make a comparison between them. If you ask them whether Tuifuapolotu is a great god, they will answer, yes, he is a very great god. Is Tariaitupo a greater god? Yes, much greater. How great then is Tariaitupo? He is a great chief from the top of the sky down to the bottom of the earth. He is also the god of rank in society, and in this quality he is often invoked by the heads of great families as the king and other great nobles on occasion of sickness or other family troubles. So Tanya Tupo is the guy. He's the main king. He's the main god, right? From the top to the bottom, he's the main god. Tanya Tupo. See, we only go by Tagaloa nowadays. Almost all of Polynesia know who Tagaloa is, but nobody knows who Tanya Tupo is, and that's the point that he was trying to make. Is the higher the god, the more people is gonna know and talk about and remember. Tagaloa, all of Polynesia knows. Tanya Tupo, nobody knows, right? Because he was mainly the god of the kings and the rulers in Tonga, but they're in Vava'u, and he was the god of war, and the war guys remember him. But if you ask anybody, any Tongan, they're gonna tell you they don't know who Tariai Tupo is. Nobody is. They recognize the name Tupo, they recognize the name Tuifua Pulotu, but they don't know that nobody knows. It's not common knowledge for anybody to know that Tariai Tupo is a god and Tuipulotu Tuifua or Tuifua Pulotu is a god. That has all been lost in history through storytelling and whatnot. The king and other great nobles on occasion of sickness or family troubles. That's what they call Tariai or Tuifua Pulotu. He has several houses dedicated to him, 3 or 4 at Vava'u, one at Lifuka, and a few at other islands. He has 3 or 4 priests whom he occasionally inspires. At least Mr. Mariner was acquainted with 3 or 4, but perhaps there are others. Yeah, Mariner knew a lot of these guys, or a lot of these gods, and a lot of the priests that spoke for those gods. Mariner knew a lot of them. Hikuleo, no literal meaning that we can discover unless Hikuleo, to guard the tail. Hikuleo, to guard the tail. There is another definition to that. There is another definition to hikuleo, because they use hikuleo a lot nowadays. They use it a lot. There's even a kalapu called hikuleo. But we'll get back into that immediately after these messages. You'll hear hikuleo a lot, or at least I know that there's a lot of the use of hikuleo. There is a club in Salt Lake at the office. They call hikuleo. There was a radio station called hikuleo. I don't know where they got it from, but according to this, hikuleo is the 3rd level god in Tonga back then. Hiku does mean tail. Leo does mean to guard. So he's saying that hikuleo means to guard the tail. Hikuleo also means, like hiku also means the back, and leo also means the voice. So hikuleo could mean the last word. Because it has different meanings, all they're saying is hiku means tail, true. And le'o means to protect or to guard the tail. But I'm thinking, what does that mean to guard the tail? Because hiku is also referred to the back of something or the end of something, kohiku, the hiku end of it. And le'o also means the voice. You can say voice, or le'o also means to guard. But the last word seems like, in my opinion, more logical for a god to have the last word, unless it's the god who guards at the end of your life. Anyways, that's up to interpretation at this point. But Hikuleo is the third god, a very high god regarded principally by Tuitonga's family. So Tuitonga's family, their god is Hikuleo. That's probably why, or that's probably been passed down, and that's why Hikuleo is known more today than Tariai Tupo and Tuifua Pulotu. Hikuleo is known more today because it principally principally by Tuitonga's family as the god. That may be the reason why it's the only one that's known today. He has no priest nor any house and is supposed never to come to Tonga. The natives are uncertain about his attributes. So there you go. Another history or part of history that was lost through history for the lack of storytelling, or at least the lack of it going out, writing it, because they didn't write stories back then, right? Is why they don't know his origin, Hikuleo's origin. But all these people may at one point have been people as well, right? Next god, Tupo Totai, literally Tupo the mariner. Yeah, Totai means the mariner or fisher, because Totai is what to do with fisher. So maybe of the water, of the ocean, of the sea, Tupo of the sea, Tupo of the fishing god, fisherman's god. Anyways, the tail end of the voice. Okay. Up to anybody's interpretation. Tupoto Tai is the patron of Finau's family. Also the god of voyages. There you go. Because it has to do with Totai has to do with water or the ocean. In the first quality, he is often invoked by Finau. In the second, by chiefs going upon any maritime expedition. Also, by anybody in a canoe during a voyage. So before they go, they say a prayer. They invoke this god, Tupoto Tai, before they go into the water. It says right here, the first quality, he is often invoked by God, which is for mariner, for going into the ocean. So anybody that goes into the ocean will pray to Tupoto Tai, or at least invoke him. Back or not? Back. Time stamp. Okay. So if you were to voyage at all into the ocean, Tupoto Tai is who you're gonna call. He is not the god of wind, but is supposed to have great influence with that deity. His chief power is extended to the preservation of canoes from accidents. This god has several houses dedicated to him, chiefly at Vava'u and the contiguous isles. So I would imagine that there would be a house dedicated to Tupoto Tai on every shore. Because as soon as you go into the water, before you go into the water, you're gonna pray to Tupoto Tai in front of his house that's dedicated to him before you get into the water. That's what I would imagine. So I would imagine Tupoto Tai has many houses. Mr. Mariner only knew one priest belonging to him, but he perhaps has several. It will be recollected in the former part of the history at the time when Finau's daughter was ill, this priest when inspired, foretold that either she or Finau must die, as decreed in Pulotu, or the spirit world. In consequence, Finau, after his daughter's death, was so exasperated with his god, Tupototai, for not making arrangements among the gods more favorable to him, that he vowed to kill his priest. Yeah, I remember that. Remember that when Finau's daughter died? After he invoked Tupototai, Finau vowed to kill Tupototai's priest who lives on earth and speaks for Tupototai. Finau wanted to kill him, which sacrilegious intention was prevented by his own death. Ah, see? He died before he can carry out that vengeance upon the priest. And a lot of people said, oh, yeah, that's because he had that plan that he was to kill Tupototai or to kill the priest, that he died himself. So there you go, Tupototai, the god of the sea. Next god, Alai Valu. Alai, no discoverable meaning. Valu, the number 8. Mariner may have messed this up because Vava'u is known for Halai Valu. But that just means 8 roads. Halai Valu. That's what it's known today. Here it's spelled A-L-A-I. Alai Valu. So I guess that may have to go up to interpretation too, because Mariner says there's no discoverable meaning unless he heard it incorrectly. And what people use today is Halai Valu. So if you're talking about Halai Valu, you're talking about Vava'u. And that's where 8 roads meet in one place, Halai Valu. A god that patronizes, and Halai Valu is also known. So there you go. A god that patronizes the Hau's family, but being particularly the patron god of Toi'umu. Toi'umu is Finau Ulukalala's aunt. The late king's aunt, right? He has a large consecrated fencing at Ofu, one of the islands in the vicinity of Vava'u. So Alai Valu has a house in Vava'u. Has at least one priest and is very frequently consulted in behalf of sick persons. Oh, okay. So if you get sick, it's the Halai Valu's priest that you want to go talk to, because he's the guy that you want to go talk to when somebody's sick. So that's who Finau, that's who Ulukalala should have went to. Ulukalala went to Tupoto Otai, the god of the ocean. He should have went to the god of healing, which is Alai Valu. Alo alo, literally to fan. Alo alo means to fan, right? To fan. Alo alo, to fan. So alo means to row, but we don't use alo alo to fan. We use tapiri piri, tapiri, to fan today. But alo alo back then meant to fan. Alo means to row, but the way the fan and the oars back then looked were similar. So perhaps to fan and to alo, or alo alo now, as we see, because they were both of them are shaped similarly, perhaps that's where the connection between fanning and rowing is. Alo is to fan. Anyways, alo alo literally means to fan. The god of the wind and weather, rain, harvest, and vegetation. In general, who is generally invoked about once a month if the weather is seasonable, that it may remain so. But if unseasonable or destructive on shore by excessive wind or rain, he is invoked every day. So Alo Alo is the god of the weather. The god of weather, Alo Alo. So they basically praise him for good weather. And if it's bad weather, they're praying to him every day for good weather. So there you go. Alo Alo is not the god of thunder and lightning, of which indeed there is no god acknowledged among them, as this phenomenon is never recollected to have done any mischief of consequence. So he's just the weather, rain, so of wind, weather, rain, harvest, and vegetation. That's who the a god is. Alo Alo is the god of. In boisterous weather at sea, the superior god Tupoto Tai, the protector of canoes and other sea gods, are always invoked in place of Alo Alo. About the time when the yams are full grown, near the latter end of December, the ceremony of Tau Tau begins, consisting in an offering of yams and other provisions to the god Alo Alo, because he's the god of harvest and vegetation, rain, harvest, and, vegetation, right? Alo Alo is. It is repeated every 10 days for 8 times successively, as will be described under the head of of religious rites. This god has only 2 houses dedicated to him, one at Vava'u and the other at Lifuka. Also 2 priests, one at each place. So if you want good weather and good crops and rain, Alo Alo is who you need to talk to, people. Hikuleo wrestles for WWE. Nice. Devita fine definition of Hikuleo. The tail end of voice. Nice. The tail end of voice. Oh, okay. He's King Haku's son. Nice. Polynesians are the Israelites. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So much to be said about that. So that was Alo Alo. Next god we have up, coming to the stage, Tuipulotu. Wait, I thought we did Tuipulotu. Oh, that was Tuifuapulotu, chief of all of the spirit world. This is Tuipulotu, Tuifuapulotu, and then Tuipulotu. So Tuipulotu literally means chief of Pulotu. This and the 3 following are all minor gods of the sea and of voyages and protectors of Finau's family. Notwithstanding his name, he is inferior to all the gods mentioned before him, but much upon an equality with the 3 following. So he's more, this is a lower god. Tuipulotu is a lower god. He has 2 houses dedicated to him at Vava'u and one at Lifuka, none elsewhere that Mariner knew of. He has perhaps 2 or 3 priests. Right on. The next god, Hala Api Api, is another god. Hala Api Api is still a common name in the palace. I've seen it in one of the princess's middle names. But Hala Api Api was also a chief in Vava'u that we've talked about in the past chapters. Hala Api Api is another god. Literally, a road crowded, or a crowded road. Hala Api Api. What does that mean? Hala Api Api. Because Api means home. Hala Api Api. Usually when you repeat a word, there means many of them, right? When you repeat a word, or it gives it more distinct. Api Api. Because Api means home. Literally means crowded road. So Mariner said that Hala Api Api just means a crowded road. But he doesn't say a crowded road of what? Of people, of homes, of houses. I'm assuming he means people. Hala Api Api means just a literal road crowded. He has the same attributes as Tuipulotu. Mr. Mariner knows of no house dedicated to him. He has 1 priest. So the god of Hala Api Api, same attributes of Tuipulotu. Now we already know what Tuipulotu is, as we've read here. Minor god, sea and voyage. So Tuipulotu is of sea and voyage, and now Hala Api Api is the same thing. Gods of sea and voyage. So you can either pray to Tuipulotu, Hala Api Api, even Alo Alo if you're going out to sea. Right? Did we read that correctly? Hikuleo. Oh, that's Tupo Totai and Halaivalu. All gods that you can pray to if you're going to go out into the ocean for protection. Next, Tokyu Kamea. Literally an iron axe. The same attributes as the above. So these were names of people also. Halaapi Api, Tokyu Kamea, which is Mariner's Palangi name or English name, are both gods. And now they were also people. If we didn't conquer your lands, you wouldn't even know about God. I don't know about conquering more than you came and shared with us. We believed in the Most High before Christians came. I believe that. Lucky guess, I suppose. Lucky guess about what? Some of that sugar. I fire went. If we didn't conquer your lands, you would know about God. Well, we wouldn't know specifically about Jesus Christ, but we believed in gods. Yeah, perhaps we would have. Yeah, there is order in that, as far as the scripture and having that in order. Israelites are from 12 tribes and are scattered all over the world, not just Polynesian. Absolutely. Just look at the Jews. Where are the Jews from, right? The Jews are from Judah. Are they the tribe of Judah? Anyways, yeah, that's true too. We believe that, a lot of Polynesians believe that it's the tribe of Joseph, Ephraim, Manasseh are the main ones that we come from. So a lot of Polynesians believe that. So we got Tokyu Kamea, which means iron axe. He's a god. So Ahalabiapi Tokyu Kamea. Tupo Puku, literally Tupo the short, or Tupo the midget. Really, Puku means short, a short person. Typically a midget. The same attributes as the above. So all these are the same. These guys you be prayed to for travel. Wait, what does it say again? Sea and voyages. Sea of voyages. So all those guys have the same attributes right there. The next god, Tagaloa, god of artificers. Yeah, see, I don't know if you pronounce that artificers, 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 and the arts, any artifacts basically. God of artifacts and the arts. Doubtful if he has any house dedicated to him. Tagaloa? Bruh. This whole time we've been talking highly of Tagaloa, and that's the god. You would think that Tagaloa is higher up there. It was this god that brought the Tonga Islands from the bottom of the sea while fishing. So I guess Tagaloa is a lower god than everybody thinks, or everybody talks about today. But in the days of Mariner, you have 6 gods that are above Tagaloa, where today we believe Tagaloa is the highest god. But we had Tariai Tupo, Tuifua Pulotu. We got Hikuleo, the next one down. Tupo Totai, Alaivalu, Alo Alo, Tuipulotu, Halaapi Api, Tokyu Kamea, Tupo Puku, Tagaloa is number 11. The God we believe today was the God of all of Polynesia before and brought up the islands from the bottom of the sea. is God number 11, according to Mariner, which means he's lower. You don't even pray to him if you were to go out into the ocean. He's the God of artifacts and the arts, God of arts, because it was his hook that brought up all the islands from the bottom of the sea. Um, he has several priests, and all those priests are all carpenters. Makes sense. God of arts, artifacts, arts, carpenters. It was this god that brought the Tonga Islands from the bottom of the sea while fishing. God number 11, huh? Interesting. Such are the names and attributes of the chief primitive gods, next to whom in rank and power come the souls of Akis or nobles. So these are the next gods up. Number 12, souls of Akis or nobles. Of these, there must be a vast number. Their attributes are similar to those of the primitive chief gods. They have the power of inspiring priests and of appearing in dreams and visions to their relatives and others. They have no houses dedicated to them, but the proper place to invoke them are their graves, which are considered sacred and are therefore as much respected as consecrated houses. Their names are the same as they had while living. Okay, so all these guys, these nobles, they keep the same name, and they become gods, basically, is what they're saying. Hold the same rank mutually among themselves as they held during their mortal existence. Whether their deeds were good or evil during their life is a circumstance that does not at all affect their state in Pulotu. All punishments for crimes being supposed to be inflicted by the primitive gods upon men during their lifetime. So he's saying that the gods, the high chiefs, the nobles, and the Akis, if they once they die, they go and they become lower gods, right? And they can still inspire people and inspire the priests and visit their descendants and whatnot. Even if they were bad people, if they were bad as far as bad, treated people badly or bad chiefs or whatever, because they would have been punished in this life. Where nowadays we don't believe that that's how punishment works all the time. We believe that the punishment is vengeance is mine, said the Lord, and the God will punish us accordingly after this life. Is the difference. In which of inflictions, the second class of gods have a proportional power with the first. As many of these souls of nobles have had strong warlike dispositions in this world, it might be supposed that they waged war against each other in Pulotu. What? So he's saying that some of these chiefs, when they go to the spirit world, they're going to wage war with the same guys that they waged war while they were here on Earth. Right? That's how warlike they were, these nobles. But this is not the case, for in that state of existence, their understanding is clear than in this world, enabling them to discern what is right and disposing them to choose it in preference to what is wrong. Not but what they and even the primitive gods have verbal disputes, but which from the clearness of their intellect and the justice of their views are supposed to be managed with divine temperance. Of course, they die and they may have a type of war or battle, but it will be all in conversation, in debate, right? Because they're saying that gods have to hold perfect, cool, calm, collected disposition and temperament in the spirit world, because that's how gods are supposed to behave. That's why they want us to behave like that here on earth, is to control your emotions. Use your mind, use your brain for everything. Run everything, filter everything through the mind. Do not let the emotions make your decisions, because for the most part, it's going to be the wrong decision, right? Also, they say that emotional decisions can be intoxicating decisions too. And the only time you make drunk decisions or intoxicating decisions is when you're drunk or you're emotional. Both are similar in decision making. So, that being the case, he's saying that when the gods do go to war with each other in Pulotu, or the spirit world, it's a war of words, war of debate, war of minds and conversation, because they must maintain a tempered disposition. As a tempered discussion of gods may appear awful violence to weak minded man, so it is not to be wondered that such disputes at Pulotu should produce thunder and lightnings in Tonga. And they believe that. They believe that the reason why there's thunders, lightnings in Tonga, and the winds and waves and so forth is because these gods fight with each other. So if they're arguing hard in the spirit world, it affects what goes on in Tonga, right? Because you got the god of sea, the god of wind, the god of water, the god of lightning and thunder, and all of them fighting, and they believe that all those things are perpetrated by the gods that control them, right? Because they're over here in Tonga and everybody has tasks that they tend to, they believe that gods have tasks that happen here on earth that they tend to and are responsible for. So when storms and lightning and rain and thunder and all that happen, it because of the gods caused it, or the gods are fighting heartily in the spirit world, and it's affecting the physical world. Israelite tribes that were scattered is only 10 tribes, causes Judah and Benjamin tribes stayed behind in Jerusalem. Yes, make America great again. Of course, as happened in the discussion among the gods respecting the fate of Finau and his daughter. So he's saying during the storms and whatnot, when Finau's daughter, or Finau and his daughter, were going to die in the story, right? They're saying the storms and the lightnings and the waves and the winds, the gods were arguing. And those arguments caused everything that riled up and became, rambunctious in Polynesia, were because those gods who control those things were very mad and angry and so forth. That's what caused it all. Okay, the next one are the souls of Matapunes. So we got the souls of Akis, or the souls of the nobles. They're number 12. Number 13 in the order of the gods in Tonga are the souls of Matapunes. And Matapunes are number 13. 11, 12, 13. Okay. Let's see what the souls of the Matapunes have to say about their rank in the society of gods. Of these, little need to be said, as they hold the same name and rank as during their life. They have not the power of inspiring. So they have not the power of inspiring priests. They cannot punish nor reward mankind, at least by any direct influence, though their friends and relatives sometimes beg their intercession with the higher gods in behalf of their health or prosperity, etc. So they may be prayed to, I guess, but that's just for, like, if my father was a matapure and he passes away, I would just ask my father in prayer. If one of my kids are sick, or wife or whatever, I would pray to my father, since he's a matapure and he died as a matapure, and I would ask him, please go and talk to whoever it is, the God of healing, the God of health, and bless and heal this, please. That's basically how. So you'd have an inside man, as far as you'd have a voice in the spirit world. If you were of nobility here on this earth and you died, your family is now praising or praying to you and having you go talk to the higher ups to fix these things, right? Where nowadays we talk to the high up ourselves here on earth, and we talk to the man and we ask him direct, please help, please heal. I want to keep this thing together, but thy will be done, Lord, right? We're not going to do like the old Tongans and strangle a baby or cut off the, fingers of 5 or 6 year olds, right, to save our loved ones. Now it's God the Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, please help and bless and heal my family. If not, thy will be done. But yeah, I won't be strangling anybody. not this time. Not in these times or these days. We know better. Okay, the souls of Matapunes. Where are we at? Okay. They have no houses dedicated to them, but they sometimes appear to their friends. Some of them are tutelar gods and protectors of tu'as, or lower orders, which they are, as it were, by permission, the attendants or servants of the primitive gods. These, like the gods to whom they belong, are original inhabitants of Pulotu. What? Come on. Make it make sense. Okay, so they're saying the Matapunes originate from Pulotu or the spirit world. And so they're just basically going home. So they do have lower orders, which they are, as it were, by permission. So there you go. The Matapunes can eventually become gods. Lower order god, though. The next, no, that's number 12, 13. This is number 14. The attendants or servants of the primitive gods. These, like the gods to whom they belong, are original inhabitants of Pulotu. Oh, that's what he's saying. The attendants and servants, they're original inhabitants, which means they believe that if you're an attendant or a servant of primitive gods here on Earth, that means you originally came from the spirit world. So you already have homes or houses there. They are considered of less quality than the souls of Matapunes. They have no power in Tonga, and if they go there, they cannot manifest themselves. Their number is supposed to be immense. So there you go. The attendants or servants of the primitive gods, they're nobodies in the spirit world, basically. Or they're not high up at all, but there's a lot of them, immense number. They don't even have a name. The next one in line, number 15, the Otua Pau, or mischievous god, are perhaps several in number, but only 5 or 6 are supposed to be particularly active, and from their disposition to plague mankind, they reside more frequently at Tonga than at Pulotu. Oh. So this god, the Otua Pau, he stays in Tonga because he brings a lot of mischief indiscriminately to everybody. That's who they're crediting mischief to, is to this Otua Pau guy. They are accused of being the cause of all the petty inconveniences and troubles of life. Doesn't this line up with how we believe about Lucifer being sent here and the 1/3 of the host of heaven being sent here to tempt and to try and to destroy the souls of men? Doesn't that sound like these guys right here? Aren't those guys Otua Paus in this context? That's what it sounds like. Sounds like Lucifer and his hordes are here, who are here to destroy the souls of man by influencing them to do what's wrong and destroy each other. It sounds like this is who we're talking about, who he's talking about. They are accused of being the cause of all petty inconveniences and troubles of life. But they are of influence. They're influential, right? But there's a similarity between them and the 1/3 who are sent here to influence the souls of man to destruction. Otua Paus. Interesting. And at Samoa, or the Navigators Islands, Samoa, they have an idea which is very convenient to the reputation of the females, that some of these Otua Paus molest them in their sleep, in consequence of which there are many supernatural conceptions. Oh my gosh. This is funny. At Samoa or in Samoa, they have an idea which is very convenient to the reputation of the females, that some of the Otuapaus molested them in their sleep, in consequence of which there are many supernatural misconceptions. Come on. That is convenient for the reputation of females in Samoa, interestingly enough, right? But we know what that is. That isn't the Otua Pau. That's the High Chief Pau or somebody else Pau. Or you Pau, right? You Pau that got that got pregnant. Trying to blame the Otua Pau. Wowzers, lady. You have some nerve. But that's crazy that anybody would even believe. No, that's true. The Otuapau came and molested them, and now they're pregnant. That's why they're pregnant. But as Mariner says, it was a convenient excuse to salvage the reputation of some of these women, which is which is freaking hilarious. Oh yeah, just blame it on the Otuapau. No, it wasn't me. It was the Otuapau, bruh. I robbed that bank, but the Otuapau, dude, freaking came over here and inspired me to go open the doors and taught me how to pick all the locks. And I mean, I didn't have this ski mask before now. Anyways, that's funny. At Tonga, however, the matter is never carried to that extent. Well, duh, because we ain't gonna believe you, right? The matter is never carried to that extent. These Otuapaus have no priests, have no houses dedicated to them, nor are they ever invoked. All the great misfortunes of life, as before noticed, are special inflictions from the gods for the crimes of men, whereas the mischievous tricks played by the Atuapau are for their own whim and delight. They lead travelers astray, trip them up, pinch them, jump upon their backs in the dark, cause the nightmare and frightful dreams. They are never seen. Atuapaus. So those are the ones haunting. He's saying that these are the ones that haunt people. These Otuapaus are the ones that haunt people. So these would be the gods of, well, they can't be called gods because God is a title of service. It's a title of charity. But they're calling them gods just to give them a title and an excuse or a reason for all the calamities that happen to people in Tonga. Right? I was born in Kahuku. Pausi. Pausi. Yeah, that's freaking hilarious. Where were we? Talked about Otua Pauia, Pausi. That's funny. So the Atuapau, and you hear this in Tonga actually, pinch them, jump on their backs in the dark, cause a nightmare and frightful dreams. They are never seen. So these are the haunting ghosts. So really, they're just ghosts. The Atuapau. Okay, next one down, Mui. The Mui. What? Mui. It had 3 O's. It says Mo'ui. But the way Mariner, instead of putting a U, because U was pronounced he put O-O so that you know that it's U. But he put 3 O's in Mo'ui, so it's Mo and then Ui, which means life or living. A god that supports the earth lying on him, he being prostrate. A God that supports the earth lying on him, he being prostrate. So basically, they're saying that the earth lies on top of him. He's face down, and then that's prostrate, and the earth sits upon him. This, as may be supposed, is a very gigantic being. Yeah, if the earth is lying upon him. Greater in personal bulk than any of the others. He never inspires anybody, nor ever leaves his situation. He has no house dedicated to him. When an earthquake happens, it is supposed that this God, feeling himself in an uneasy posture, is endeavoring to turn himself about, and on such occasions, the people give loud shouts and beat the ground with sticks, which is supposed to have the effect of making him lie still. So they're saying that earthquakes that happen is because this Otua, what's his name again? Otua Mo'ui. If earthquakes happen, they're because the earth lies on his back and he's laying down and he gets uncomfortable and starts moving, they're saying that what they do in Tonga is beat upon the ground to make it sit still. Because he's moving around. It's like, Tonga, lie still. So during earthquakes, instead of going searching for somewhere safe to be, these guys beat sticks upon the ground until the earthquake stops, and then they believe that they're the ones that stopped it. That's freaking hilarious. That's funny. But it could have been everything. I mean, he could have had an upset stomach. He could have freaking passed gas to make it shake. He could have probably just been stretching, right? But the Tongan people actually believe, let's beat the ground and make him lie still. Toma'u. Toma'u. Interesting. And on such occasions, the people give loud shouts and beat the ground with sticks, which is supposed to have the effect of making him lie still. They have no idea of what he lies on, nor ever make any inquiries about it, and say it would be folly to do so, for who can go there and see? So they just never questioned it. Yeah, that's just how it is. That's what it is. That's the story we came up with, and we're going to stand by it. That's what it is. If the earth shakes, we'll hit it with sticks, make sure he lies still. We don't know what he's lying on. It's whatever. We don't ask about it because nobody can go over there and check to see what he's doing. Right? Such is the account they give for their gods, and the respect which they pay to these imaginary beings is so great and so universal that scarcely any instance is known of downright impiety. Indeed, they have very strong, so they just believe it no matter what. Downright, this is what everybody believes. Indeed, they have very strong motives to keep them in proper order in this respect, founded in their firm and fixed belief that all human miseries are the consequent punishment of crimes, and that acts of atrocity are most frequently punished by disease and death. So if you're going to be a bad person, yeah, you're going to die. They all feel like, oh, he's going to die eventually someday if somebody doesn't, get him first. Like behavior what happens to you and your family has a lot to do with your behavior, basically. That's why they align everything with the good virtues of God, because if you have bad behavior, you're going to die a quick death, either by God himself or by one of these guys around them. And this risk of premature death among the tu'as in particular must have a frightful aspect, as they consider the termination of life as a termination of their existence altogether. That's right. So the tu'as don't want to die because they've been told they don't have a soul. As soon as you die and you go to the ground, you're there. There is no soul. There is no afterlife. There is no spirit world for you if you're a tu'a. That had to be a son of a bee, which makes them the more reverend people, right? But just fearing death. That's crazy to have lived like that with that belief. Like, damn, we're tuas, but when we die, koya peono asiya. That's it. We're done. So we gotta live as long as we possibly can because once we die, there's no after this for us. We're gonna be buried, and that's all there is to it. To live with that mentality, that mind, like this is it. It's the end. That's crazy. Of course, now they're all over there in the spirit world talking about how they were all wrong, so it doesn't matter, right? With respect to the chiefs, indeed, to whom death is only a change to a better life, this apprehension may not take quite so strong a hold. Right. You believe your life is better in the spirit world anyway. Of course, you'll be like, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to death. Because this life right here is some bullshit. I mean, everything, the next life is better anyway. Yeah, we all believe that too. Nevertheless, life is always sweet. There are always some purposes of ambition or enjoyment yet to be satisfied. And when death comes, it is rather to be wished for in the field of battle than prostrate on a mat overcome with pain and disease in the midst of one's friends and relatives weeping and lamenting. Yeah, make sure I don't die here. If I get sick, take me to war. I want to die there in battle, like Tui Halafatai did, right? When uh, when Finau said, "Oh yeah, well we'll go meet up with those guys and fight them when the sun comes up in the afternoon." Tui Halafatai, the sun wasn't even up. Tui Halafatai said, "No, man, I'm feeling kind of sick right now. Let's go now." Because if I fall down and I'm sick, I'll be laying there forever. I want to die out there. They all did, right? Die out there. So that also gives another take as far as the Tu'as probably lived longer because they were scared that their souls don't move on into the next realm, where everybody else, it didn't matter when they died. And it was more honorable to die in death because they're going to die a good death and go to the next realm in the spirit world as a higher up. This whole time, I thought all the survivors of Tonga were survived because of warriors, but that's not true. Some survived because they were peasants. Either way, okay. The next subject to speak of is the origin of the happy. Oh, I was reading this in Tongan. Habitable. I was like, habitable. The next subject to speak of is the origin of the habitable earth, which, according to their notions, vague as they are, has already been related. So the habitable earth is what the word was, which they gave a description of it and so forth already. It wasn't that they really don't know. There are no scientists of that caliber, right? There was no Galileo. There was no philosophers or engineers of any kind. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, those guys. But now they do. Now they did. I mean, we do now. So thank God. Tagaloa, having discovered land, as therein described by the divine influence of himself and other gods, it was soon replete with all kinds of trees, herbs, animals, such as were in Pulotu, but of an inferior quality and subject to decay and death. Being now willing that Tonga should also be habited by intelligent beings, he commanded his two sons thus: Go and take with you your wives and dwell in the world at Tonga. Two sons, huh? So this is a Tagaloa story right here. The footnote says the following story is as nearly as possible a literal translation of the language in which they tell it. Okay. So Tagaloa and his brother sent here with their wives from Pulotu to stay in Tonga. This is the origin of their story right here. And they have other origins too. But this is from early 18, late 1700s people. They departed accordingly. The name of the eldest was Tupo, and the name of the youngest was Vaka Akauri, who was an exceeding wise young man. Vaka Akauri means a ship built of black wood, a black ship. Sounds like a pirate ship. You know what I mean? I wonder if Jack Sparrow was Tongan. Koshaki Sparrow and anyways. Let's see, where were we? For it was he that first formed axes and invented beads and cloth and looking glass. The young man called Tupo acted very differently, being very indolent, sauntering about the sleep and sleeping, and envying very much the works of his brother. Tired at length with begging his goods, he bethought himself to kill him, but concealed his wicked intention. What? What does this story sound like right here? Two brothers sent here to stay here. One of them, Tagaloa, worked, tilled, right? The other one was lazy, but envied the working brother that got blessed. And so the lazy brother killed the working brother. What does that story sound like? And where did they get that story of Tagaloa and his brother Tupo? Interesting. He accordingly, wait, what? I bet you like Ellen. Of course. He accordingly met his brother walking and struck him till he was dead. So Tupo met Tagaloa walking, they beat him to death. At that time, their father came from Pulotu. Bruh, what does this story sound like? Two brothers, one of them kills the other, and then the father comes from the spirit world. What does that story sound like? But concealed his wicked intention. So, tired at length with begging his goods. So this is Tupo. Tired at length of begging his goods, he bethought himself to kill his brother, but concealed his wicked intentions. He accordingly met his brother walking and struck him until he was dead, right? At that time, their father came from Pulotu, or the spirit world, at exceeding great anger and asked him, "Why have you killed your brother?" What does that story freaking sound like, dude? And where did the Tongans get this story if Mariner is saying this is what they believed? Two brothers, this sounds like the Cain and Abel story, right? Because then the Lord came and asked Cain, "Why have you killed your brother?" This is crazy, eh? Could not you work like him? So this is their father, the God, came from the spirit world, told Tupo, "Could not you work like him? O thou wicked one, be gone. Go with my commands to the family of Vakaakauri. Tell them to come hither." Tell them to come hither. Being accordingly come, Tagaloa straightway ordered them thus. Wait, which was which? The young man called Tupo acted very differently, being very indolent, sauntering among and sleeping, and envying very much the works of his brother. Tired at length with begging his goods, he bethought himself to kill him, but concealed his wicked intentions. He accordingly met his brother walking and struck him till he was dead. At that time, their father came from Poloto with exceeding great anger and asked him, "Why have you killed your brother? Could not you work like him? Oh, that wicked one be gone. Go with my commands to the family of Vakagauri to tell them to come hither." Being accordingly come, Tagaloa straightway ordered them thus. Oh, Tagaloa is the freaking father. He's the god. This is Tupo and his brother um, Vaka'akauri. All right. What the hell? How did I lose myself and freaking confuse myself? Tagaloa having discovered land and there described by the divine influence of himself and other gods, were replete in kinds of trees, animals, polotu, inferior quality, being that way, that Tonga also be inhabited. Command two. So Tagaloa has two sons. Go and take your wives and dwell in the world in Tonga. Divide the land into two portions and dwell separately from each other. They parted accordingly. The name of the elders was Tupo. Excuse me. Why do I always have nose problems in this damn place? Whether it's nose problems or itchy or anything else, this is crazy. Okay, so Tagaloa had two sons, Tupo and Akau Vaka Akau Uri. Vaka Akau Uri worked, tilled the earth, had things, had a family, right? Him and his wife. Tupo didn't do a damn thing. Envied the worker, right? And begged the worker for his stuff. Eventually, he got tired of begging, and then he went and wanted to kill him, and then he killed him. He dies. Tagaloa, their father, comes to Tupo. What the heck? Why did you kill him? Why didn't you just go to work and build it yourself and do it yourself? Just like he did, right? Go, thou wicked one, be gone. Go with my commands to your brother's family. Tell them to come here. Being accordingly come, Tagaloa straightway ordered them thus. Put your canoes to sea and sail to the east to the great land which is there, and take up your abode there. Be your skins white like your minds. Be white like your minds. For your minds are pure. You shall be wise, making axes, and all riches whatsoever shall have large canoes. I will go myself and command the wind to blow from your land to Tonga. But they, the Tonga people, shall not be able to go to you with their bad canoes. Interesting. Damn. Why? I hope this is my ancestors, because I'm talking about them, that makes my nose itch. But what does my nose or itching, right? Usually because they say somebody's thinking of you. It has something to do with your nose itching or you sneezing, right? Ooh, somebody's thinking of you. I wonder if me talking about my ancestors, right, is causing all this because my ancestors are here and they're bothering me, or they're all excited and I'm just like, damn, knock it off. I'm just reading history, right? Do I have that superstition? Oh man. Okay, so Tagaloa then spoke thus to others: You shall be black, because your minds are bad, and shall be destitute. You shall not be wise and useful in things, neither shall you go to the great land of your brothers. How can you go with your bad canoes? But your brothers shall come to Tonga and trade with you as they please. So Tagaloa made Tupo dark, black, whatever, and made the family of his brother who worked hard, made them white. Basically saying he created the white people out of his brother's seed, and then him and his seed, the Tupos, in Tonga, stayed in Tonga. All those white people they're gonna excel and they're gonna succeed in many things, right? And you here in Tonga, you're gonna stay here. You're not gonna be educated. You're gonna stay here, and that's because you guys were wicked, or you're wicked. You're a wicked seed. They're gonna be able to create all kinds of stuff and come and trade with you here in Tonga, but you won't be able to get there because your guys' canoes can't sail that far. right? So a lot of this has to do with the convenience also of the story, making it sound plausible, which is interesting then. Also, Mr. Mariner took particular pains to make inquiries respecting the above extraordinary story with a view to discover whether it was only a corrupted relation of the Mosaic account. And he found that it was not universally known to the Tonga people. Most of the chiefs in Matapules were acquainted with it, but the bulk of the people seemed totally ignorant of it. So the chiefs knew about the story, but a lot of the people didn't. Okay. This led him at first to suspect that the chiefs had obtained the leading facts from some of our modern missionaries. There you go. And had interwoven it with their own notions. But the oldest men affirmed their positive belief that it was an ancient traditionary record and that it was founded in truth. It seems strange that they should believe in an account which serves so much to degrade them and makes even their very chiefs to be descendants of bad men, cursed by their father, and with the evils of poverty and ignorance. Nevertheless, they readily own the superiority of the Palangis, not only in knowledge, but disposition to do good. So the Tongans just owned it. Yeah, we're dark because our ancestor Tupo killed his brother, uh, uh, Vaka Papa Uri or whatever, Akau Uri. And so Tangaloa blessed that son's family to be white and prosperous and educated and knowledgeable and blessed us with dark skin and left us here in Tonga so that we can't go anywhere, but they can come and trade with us. So the treatment, right? They kept it. So Mariner really researched and asked, "Are you guys sure the missionaries didn't tell you this story? Are you guys sure this isn't a watered down version of what's in the Bible? Because this sounds very familiar, right? It sounds like the Mosaic record of what happened in the Bible." Um, Odin. But on the other hand, they do not so readily confess themselves to lie under malediction. So there you go. They believe it so much that they told it to each other, so well and so often and made sure that everybody know this is fact. And because this is fact and truth, we don't want to veer from this and water any of this story down. We have to tell it as fact or we're going to be cursed out of fear that they'll lie under malediction, right? Something bad might happen to them if they tell the story wrong, right? All convenience as far as storytelling, for sure, but kept the tradition going. And, if, um, how long can you make a kid believe in Santa Claus? I gotta watch the timer because I'm doing this on my phone, but I'm still getting calls, guys. Sorry. I'm not a pro at this tech stuff, so I just jump on this, whatever. So, anyways, here we go. On the contrary, they maintain that they are far superior to us in personal beauty, and though we have more instruments and riches, they think that they could make a better use of them if they only had them in their possession. Of the chiefs and Matapunes who related the foregoing account, some believe some believed it firmly, others felt it as they found it. None positively disbelieved it. Mr. Mariner related to them our spiritual and traditionary account of Cain and Abel and expressed his opinion that they must have received their information either from the missionaries or from some papalagi at an early period who accident had thrown among them. But some still persisted that it was an original tradition of their own. while others owned. There was so great a similarity between the two accounts that they were disposed to believe they had received theirs from us, perhaps 2 or 3 or 4 generations back. But such things do not very often form a subject of conversation among them. Consequently, their knowledge and beliefs of these matters, as they have no writings, become very vague, incongruous, and uncertain. See, that's all I'm saying. For anybody who thought that writing, the murderer's writings and record keeping was useless, is this problem right here. Is that stories get watered down, they become vague, and they become, um, you know, uncertain, incongruous, right? So that's the blessing of scriptures coming down from generation to generation. That's the blessing of Mariner's writings, is that he kept all of this firsthand experience so that we can learn of our ancestors from a time before Western civilization and before Christianity. They have several other accounts of the origin of mankind, or rather of the first inhabitants of Tonga, but most of them are not only ridiculous, but very confused and indeterminate, and as Mr. Mariner believes, of no greater antiquity than the present generation invented, perhaps for the purpose of passing away time, sure, for lack of better conversation, most of the natives being very fond of inventing tales for amusement. There you go. Like the continental nations west of them, but very void of the poetic elegance of those nations. So whether it's passing time or storytelling or whatever else it was, just for the stories to be watered down and changed and so forth. You're in a place like this and information changes, right? Or if they're just sitting around telling stories and one-upping each other like we usually do, the stories are bound to change. And they're about to be stuck on something. The account that is more universally known and believed, which is the least inconsistent with their general notions, and probably the most ancient, is the following. At a time when the island of Tonga were already existing, but not yet people with intelligent beings, some of the minor gods of Pulotu, being desirous to see the new world, which Tagaloa had fished up, put to sea about 200 in number, male and female, in a large canoe and arrived at the island of Tonga. They were so well pleased with the novelty of the place that they determined to remain there, and accordingly broke up their canoe and made small ones of it. But in a few days, 2 or 3 of them died. This phenomenon alarmed all the rest, for decay and death was what their notion of their own immortality did not lead them to expect. About this time, one of them felt himself strangely affected, and by this he knew that one of the superior gods was coming from Peloton to inspire him. In a little time, he was actually inspired and was told that the chief gods had decreed that as they had come to Tonga and had breathed the air of the place and had fed upon the produce of it, they should become mortal and people the world with mortal beings. And all about them should be Me'amama. Let's see what Me'amama means. Things of this world, mortal, subject to decay and death, in contradistinction to Mea Otua, things of the other world, Polotu, or land of Otuas, immortal and always flourishing. So, people that came here to visit Tonga, the first people, or that went to visit Tonga, they got there and some people died, and then they try to go back, but one of them was receiving revelation, a vision, telling them, hey, no, you can't go back. You've already ate of the land. You've already been there, whatever. Now you guys are mortal. You guys are no longer immortal. Doesn't that sound like the Adam and Eve story? You ate something in Tonga, so now you are mortal. What did Adam and Eve eat to make them become mortal and kick them out of the garden? Just like these guys got kicked out of Pulotu. The stories are so similar. It's like interesting, right? But it says right here, and people, the world with mortal beings and all about them should be Me'amama. Me'amama is what they call the world now. Called this world Ma'amani. Because Ma'ama means light. This light. Ma'amani means this light or this life. But we call the world this Ma'amani. Upon this upon this they were all exceedingly grieved, and were sorry they had broken up their canoe, but they made another, and some of them put to sea, with the hope of regaining the island of Polotu, in which endeavor, if they succeeded, they were welcomed back and fetch their companies. Let's see what this freaking thing says. Let's see what this freaking. I have to read it off of the. I have to look because of the computer. If they succeeded, they were to come back and fetch their companions, but they looked in vain for the land of the gods and were obliged to return sorely afflicted to Tonga. So they didn't make it. In the above story, there is a little inconsistency in respect to the gods coming from Pulotu in a canoe, for the gods are generally understood to have no canoes, not requiring them for the moment they wish to be in anywhere. Their wish is accomplished without any further trouble, which is a mode of conveyance far superior to any of our inventions, either ancient or modern. So that's, yeah, if they're in the spirit world, they want to travel here, they would have traveled by the speed of thought. But yeah, that didn't happen. The canoe's not getting there. The Tonga people have also a story among them respecting an island of immortal women existing somewhere to the northwest of Fiji, but this is suspected to be rather a Fiji tale than a tradition of their own, and consequently is not much believed among them. Oh, okay. So they're somewhere near Fiji of immortal women, but that's a Fijian tale. It's not a Tongan tale. These immortal women are considered to be otuas, gods, but they are thought to have all the passions and propensities properly belonging to women of this world, insomuch that it is dangerous for canoes to be put in there. Not that the crew would be positively ill treated by their fair goddessness, but too much kindness sometimes destroys as effectually, though perhaps not so quickly, as too much severity. Well, yeah. If you're on two opposite ends of the spectrum, um, what would you call that? Over safety, or too much trouble. It is reported that a Fiji canoe was once driven there by a gale of wind. The men landed and were charmed with the truly kind reception they met with. But in a day or two, finding the climate much too warm for their constitution, they wisely betook themselves again to their canoe and with some difficulty reached the Fiji Islands, bringing sundry marvelous accounts of the nature of the country and the reception they met with. The story is prevalent not only at Tonga and Fiji, but also at Hamoa, the Navigators Islands. Some of the Fiji people believed it. The Hamoa people doubt it very much. And the generality of the Tonga people deny it altogether. So they're talking about an island with, superhero women on there, which is a Fijian tale. But the Hamoas doubted, and the Tongans didn't believe it at all. Interesting. The natives of Tonga Islands have traditionary story respecting the origin of turtles, and as we are here discoursing about their notions of the world, which in some measure involve their knowledge of natural history, it ought properly to be told in this place. A considerable time after the existence of mankind at Tonga, a certain god who lived in the sky and whose name was Lani, received a command from the superior gods of Polotu to attend a grand conference to be shortly to be held at the latter place on some point of universal importance. Okay. Here it goes. Polotu to the grand conference. Okay. Now it happened that the god Langi had several children. Footnote says it would appear from this that the gods are supposed to have children. Nevertheless, Mr. Merity believes that this is not consistent with the general opinion of the natives. Among others, two daughters, beautiful young goddesses, who were of an age which vanity and the desire to be admired was beginning to be very strong passion, and consequently they had often expressed their wish to see the island of Tonga and to visit the people that dwelt there. But their father was too wise readily to give his consent. Business of importance, however, now commanded or demanded his absence from the sky, but being fearful that his inexperienced daughters might in the meantime descend to Tonga, he gave them the strictest commands not to leave their celestial residence till his return. And as a motive for their obedience, he promised to conduct them when he came back to Tonga and gratify their wish with safety to themselves. Damn. Okay. Saving themselves. Okay. With a view of strengthening his injunctions and better to ensure their compliance, he represented in lively colors the many dangers they would subject themselves to by infringing upon the commands. In the first place, he told them that the Otua Pau would reside, who resided at Tonga, would take every opportunity to molest them and to throw difficulties and dangers in their way, besides which there were other evils of greater consequence to fear. For they were so beautiful, he told them, that the men of Tonga would furiously fight among themselves to obtain them for their wives, and that the quarrels questioned by them would no doubt offend the superior gods of Polotu, and the Langi should thereby get the disgrace. Holy cow! What's going on here? So this story extends into Tangaloa talking to more people about going to Tonga, right? But they were warned, don't go down there. The Otuapau and his people are down in Tonga, and they're going to try to destroy you guys while you're down there. Doesn't that story sound familiar? And don't we all know where that story comes from? or at least have an idea of this freaking story. Okay, okay, no, yeah, but yeah, this whole thing is it's giving um, either Eternals the movie or something from DC Comics, definitely from DC Comics, and maybe a little bit from Marvel Universe. They could do they could go through this freaking thing and make have good stories to tell because we would basically agree with all this. The two goddesses, having promised obedience to their father's orders, he descended with speed to Pulotu. He had scarcely left the sky when they began to reason together on what he had told them. One said to the other, "Our father has only promised to take us to Tonga that he may keep us here till he come back, for he has not often promised us the same thing and never fulfilled his word." "True," said the other. "Let us go to Tonga by ourselves for a little time, just to look at the Baba people." Remember, Baba means light. "And we will return before he shall know anything of it. Besides," said both of them together, "has he not told us that we are more beautiful than the women of Tonga?" "Yes, let us go immediately to Tonga and be admired, for in the sky there are many other goddesses nearly as beautiful as ourselves, and we are scarcely noticed." Upon this, they descended together to the island of Tonga. Having alighted in a lonely place, they walked towards the Mu'a, discoursing as they went on the homage that was soon to be paid to their charms. When they arrived at the Mu'a, they found the king and all his chiefs and principal people engaged in some what is that? In some grand ceremony of rejoicing, and were drinking their kava. The moment they arrived, all the eyes were turned upon them, and all the hearts, except those that envied, were filled with admiration and love. The young chiefs vied with each other, and showing them the most uh, sigual attentions. Footnote says, "It is not the least remarkable trait in the character of the Tonga people that on almost all occasions they show very marked attention to females, and we believe that among all the different clusters of islands in the South Seas, the natives of these are singular in their respect. The women of Tonga are not obliged to labor to procure the necessities of life for their idle husbands. They were the men work, the women do chiefly those offices that are requisite for domestic comfort and for the promotion of health and cleanliness." So that's just the gender roles, right? Gender roles of Tongans and females and male and female. Everybody worked, but the women didn't do hard labor because they wanted them to be soft. They already began to be jealous of each other. They left off drinking kava, and the whole assembly was put in confusion. At length, the young men began to quarrel upon them among themselves, but the king, to settle all disputes by virtue of his superior power, took them home to his own residence. The sun had scarcely yet set, however, before certain chiefs with a strong armed force, rescued them from the sky's house, the king's house. The whole island was soon in a state of confusion and alarm, and early the following morning a bloody war was commenced. In the meantime, the gods of Pulotu heard what was going forward at Tonga, and they immediately went to the great indignation, charged poor Langi with being the cause of these disturbances. The god said, damn, in his defense that he had ordered his daughters to remain at home, but unfortunately they were disobedient. Yeah, dude, that's freaking. Oh, what's the point of this freaking story? I know it's what they believed, but I'm already confused. Mariner said that it was a confusing story. I didn't know that it was this confusing because I'm lost. I don't know what he's saying. I do know that the father takes care of the kids in the spirit world, was about to go leave somewhere, and then the two daughters say, yeah, well, we're majestically beautiful, but let's go down there and we can be majestically beautiful down there because up here we ain't all that because our majesty is lower ranking than other women's majesties in looks or whatnot. But yeah, this story, Mariner's right. The story is freaking confusing. It's dumb if you ask me. Like, this story's stupid. I don't know why he freaking wanted to tell the entire thing. I almost fell asleep reading it. Holy cow. All right, he and me left. Okay. I'm going to try not to fall asleep, y'all. But this is the whole story from Mariner, from the people who told them this story about uh, the days of gods, right? We're just going to finish this story and just push through. He immediately left the Synod of Gods and flew with all speed to Tonga, where he found that one of his daughters, by having eaten of the production of the place, had deprived herself of immortality and was already dead. So there you go. This is the Eve eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil and then died. Like, yeah, immortality left. Right? But like, if she had already died, then you would have already seen her back because her spirit would have came back into the spirit world. This is confusing. The loss of his daughter enraged. So this is story time, fireplace story time that they told. One upped each other every time they told the story. The story adjusting all on its own by nature of everybody having a different way of telling it and thinking it through, that it's become a confused, twisted story. The loss of his daughter enraged him to the utter utmost extreme. He sought for the other and seized her by the hair, severed her head from her body. Why would you do that? You lost a daughter, but you came from the spirit world. Your daughter died, which means your spirit world, your daughter should have been there back there by now. But instead, you come here to Tonga, you grab your other daughter and you cut her head off. Yeah, come on. Come on. Let's find the climax and the resolution of the story already. The head he threw into the sea, then flew with rage and disappointment back to the sky. The head in a short time turned into a turtle. Oh my gosh, that's what we were. I almost forgot why we were reading this. It's because this is the story of the tortoise or the turtle, and the reason why we believe the tortoise or the turtle is a sacred animal in the Polynesian Islands. One is because they can be possessed by gods or the spirit, and two is because one of the turtles out here was the head of one of the sisters of this person from Pulotu, the spirit world, which now they should both, as spirits, be in the spirit world, back in the spirit world now. Or else, where would they be? Unless you're talking about the movie Coco, where eventually you die, you go to the world where Coco, uncle or grandfather was, but then eventually you disappear from there, which means one of those stories are not like the other, right? The head in a short time turned into a turtle and was the origin of the source of all the turtle now found in the world. If I find the ancestor that changed the story and turned it into this, I'm going to flick his balls because this is crazy. This story obtains most universal credit at the Tonga Islands. In consequence, turtles are considered as almost a prohibited food. Very few will venture to eat them without first offering a portion to some god or sending some to any chief that may be at hand. And there are many that will not eat turtle on any account, being fearful of its producing enlarged livers or some such visceral complaint. So, not eating turtle. So they're saying nobody would eat turtle. Unless, of course, they offered it to a chief first or a higher up. That way they get the blessings of the god to eat the turtle. I've been in Tonga. I know how they eat turtles. It's crazy. Because you know the turtle is mounted on the back of the turtle like a fingernail is. Like your fingernail is mounted. So when they killed the turtle, they pulled the shell off or pulled it out of the shell, cut it up and pulled it out of the shell. And I could tell that the flesh was attached to the turtle. I don't know why I'm laughing because it was delicious. They sure know how to cook things. Onions and freaking uh, salt and coconut milk. That's how they cooked everything in there. It is not supposed, however, to be so likely to have a bad effect upon great chiefs as they approach so near in rank and character to the gods themselves. So they're saying the chiefs, nothing will happen to them because they're ranked the same way. Such are their principal notions respecting the origin of things. As to the first formation of the solid sky, as they deem it, or the island of Pulotu, or the gods themselves, they pretend to form no idea and never think of agitating the question. Whether they are eternal or whether they had a beginning, deeming all such speculations as vain and fruitless. For who, say they, can remember, or who has been there to see? So they go with the stories of the next life, of God, of everything, based on the fact that the story is already told. History was written by the victor. Let's go with this story because nobody else was there to officiate in any ordinance that calls for the accurate telling of any part of the story, or none of their ancestors for that matter. So they're all going to stick to this story. They have no legends or tales that seem to resemble those of the Society Islands, which is French Polynesia, or related by Captain Cook. Respecting the Earth, their notion is that it has a flat surface ending abruptly, which the sky overreaches. Old Tonga believed that the Earth was flat. Old Tonga were flat earthers. And that was common. Of course, that was common back then, before Galileo and before Isaac Newton and those guys, right? There were flat earthers before. But Tonga is saying that it's only common sense to them, just like it was to those before they had scientists discover using the stars the same way that no, there's rotation and there's orbiting going on based on the distance of the stars and the locations of it throughout the night and so forth, right? They don't have those kind of scientists. If you ask them why the sea does not run over, the answer will be, how can I tell? I have never been there to see. There are rocks or something to border, probably. Flat earthers. There's a big wall of ice to border it. With regard to the sun and moon, they pass through the sky and come back some way. They know not how. Well, obviously. As to the spots in the moon, they are compared to the figure of a woman sitting down and beating gatu. When the moon is eclipsed, they attribute the phenomenon to a thick cloud passing over it. The same with the sun. A thick cloud. That's what they believe the half moons and quarter moons and all that. Thick cloud passing over it. So of course they're going to have answers. There's people that are going to come up with answers to the best of their ability. And if they don't know, they're going to make something up. And that's, if you ever been to a Faikava or a mix, that's how stories have always been told. If they don't know, they're going to make something up. You have to be careful when you go to a Faikava because a lot of those guys don't know what they're talking about. You're going to have to Google them. Luckily for us, we can Google everybody these days. And so if you go to Faikava or go around Kava guys or storytellers, make sure you have your phone open to Grok or ChatGPT or Google just to make sure that you're confirming that this guy is telling the right story, because if not, you're gonna get duped. Especially the Polys and the Tongans who tell stories so confidently that you wouldn't think that they're just pulling your leg, right? Because they sound so confident, as if they've done all the research necessary to come up with this great story and one up it, and it's been one up it enough times for them to come up with a great and grand story. But you got to be careful. I know there's a lot of freaking girls out there, women out there, who are complaining about Tongan guys who lie a lot and, start, dating and affairs with them because they've been tried and tested. Their storytelling skills have been tried and tested, and now they're true, even though what they say is false, right? Um, all this science that I still don't have a personal jetpack. I've been waiting since 1985. Is that the year Rocketeer, the movie, came out? I think it came out in 1988 or 89. But once Rocketeer came out, I swore that was the next level. That was the next stage of flight, right? Rocketeer. But you can't have rockets and have nothing to control it, like wings, right? Obviously, birds have to have wings, airplanes, and all that. So, yeah, all that technology. Well, there are those single planes, the ones the tube ones, the newer ones that you can fly from your house to your friend's house. So, anyways, yeah. Sorry, I freaking went on a tangent because of this story. Here we go. Respecting the human soul in particular, they imagine it to be the finer or more acriform part of the body, and which leaves it suddenly at the moment of death. There you go. They believe this then. Spirits leave at the moment of death. Yes. And it may be conceived to stand much in the same relation to the body as the perfume and more essential qualities of the flower do to the more solid substance which constitutes the vegetable fiber. So what are you saying? It's like the spirit is more of a fragrance. So it's like a fluttering atom on a proton, on an electron, or I mean, it's a fluttering neutron on an atom. Am I saying that right? Electron on an atom. Anyways, they have no proper word to express this fine ethereal part of man, the spirit, right? As to the word loto, loto means inside, though it or in or heart, though it may be sometimes used for this purpose, it rather means a man's disposition, inclination, passion, or sentiment. Yeah, your loto, your heart. The soul is rather supposed to exist throughout the whole extension of the body, but particularly in the heart, the pulsation of which is the strength and power of the soul or mind. They have no clear distinction between the life and the soul, but they will tell you that uh, Photomanava, the right oracle of the heart, is the seat of life. They form no idea respecting the use of the brain. So that's all, in theory is good as far as what they believe about the spirit, and the spirit leaves the body immediately after it dies. But it's found right here where you hear the sounds pulsating. Like that's where the spirit dwells, right? Where really the spirit is light, light is intelligence, intelligence is up here, and there is enough light or electricity up here to light a light bulb. So really, if the spirit is light intelligence, but the reaction of the soul is felt here for sure. But I think the control center is up here. Either way, they believe that the spirit covers the entire body on the inside. Respecting the use of the brain, unless it be perhaps the seat of memory, they have a distinct word for memory. Manatu. Yes, manatu means remember or memory. They derive this notion from the natural action of putting the hand to the forehead or striking the head gently when trying to remember anything. I look like an emoji. This is an emoji that they had in Tonga back in 1805. The liver they consider to be the seat of courage, and they pretend to have remarked on opening dead bodies that the largest livers, not diseased, belong to the bravest men. Interesting observation there, huh? Large livers, when really, if you had a large or enlarged liver, you probably had hepatitis. They also say they have made another observation respecting this viscus, that in left-handed people, it is situated more on the left than on the right side. And in persons that are ambidextrous, it is placed as much on one side as the other. So it's evenly in the middle. So if you're right-handed, your heart or that beating sensation is more on this side. If you're left-handed, then it's more on that side. But if you're ambidextrous, then that beating sensation or that pulsation rests in the middle. So this is all their theories, right? Tongan theories, no real science as far as they have dissected people, right? The Fijians showed them how to do that and showed them how to eat them. So they have digested. They do know what the inside looks like. They are very well acquainted with the situation of all the principal viscera. They acknowledge that the tu'as, or lower orders of people, have minds or souls, but they finally believe that their souls die with their bodies and consequently have no future existence. The generality of the tu'as themselves are of this opinion, but there are some who have the vanity to think they have immortal souls as well as batapulas and chiefs, which will live hereafter but in Pulotu. So there are tuas that actually believe, no, we have souls too. Forget you guys. You guys say you guys have souls. There are tuas where they're saying, if they're arrogant enough, would admit or would at least proclaim, no, we have souls just like you bastards. Right? Which means if you have souls, you're going to live in the hereafter also. They were right. Those tuas were right. They were at least knowledgeable or at least enlightened enough to know, no, dude, we're all the same. You're talking about titles. No, we're all the same. There are people that realize that. But also there are people that already indoctrinated to think that or to feel and think that no, tuas are without souls. Okay. Just like, okay, so tuas, the souls, just like chiefs, which will live hereafter in Pulotu. There seems to be a wide difference between the opinions of the natives in the different clusters of the South Sea islands respecting the future existence of the soul. While the Tonga doctrine limits immortality to chiefs, matapules, and at most to mu'as, the Fiji doctrine, with abundant liberality, extends it to all mankind, to all brute animals, to all vegetables, and even to stones and mineral substance. If an animal or plant die, its soul immediately goes to Pulotu. If a stone or any other substance is broken, immortality is its reward. Nay, artificial bodies have equal good luck with men, hogs, and yams. If an axe or a chisel is worn out, away flies its soul for the service of the gods. If a house is taken down, its immortal part will find a situation on the plains of Pulotu. And to confirm this doctrine, the Fiji people can show you a sort of natural well or deep hole in the ground at one of their islands, across the bottom of which runs a stream of water, in which you may clearly perceive the souls of men, women, beasts, plants, stocks, stones, canoes, houses, and all the broken utensils of this frail world tumbling along one with the other into the regions of immortality. So the Fijians had more liberal way of thinking as far as gods. The Tongans believe that there are people, right? The Tu'as and the peasants, they don't have souls, so they're not going to go back to spirit world where they die because they don't have souls. Fijians, on the other hand, were the extreme opposite. They said everything has souls. All mankind, no matter how good or how bad, you have a soul. The plants have a soul, the animals have a soul, and the tools and everything else have souls. And once they're broken down and done with, their souls goes back to the spirit world or back to Polotu. So the Fijians were really liberal in thinking this way. Such is the Fiji philosophy, but the Tonga people deny it, unwilling to think that the residence of the gods should be encumbered with so much rubbish. You say, man, we ain't got time for your trash souls, right? The Tongans. Interesting. The natives of Tahiti, it says Otahiti, entertain similar notions respecting these things, that brutes, plants, and stones exist hereafter. And that's found in Captain Cook's Voyage, which I'm going to get to at some point in time. But it is mentioned that they extend the idea to objects of human invention. Mr. Mariner is not acquainted with the notions of the Sandwich Islands or the Hawaiians upon these subjects. What we have related respecting those of the Fiji people he obtained from Fiji natives resident at Vivava'u, from Tonga people who had visited the Fiji Islands, and from the natives of Pau when he was there. The human soul, after its separation from the body, is termed a otua, a god or spirit, and is believed to exist in the shape of the body, to have the same propensities as during life, but to be corrected by a more enlightened understanding by which it readily distinguishes good from evil, truth from falsehood, right from wrong, having the same attributes as the original gods, but in a minor degree, and having a dwelling forever in the happy regions of Pulotu, holding the same rank as during life. Let me see who believe that. A vote from Tonga people who had visited the Fiji Islands and from the natives of Pau when he was there. So this is the Fijians that believe this. The human soul after separation from the body is termed otua or spirit, and is believed to exist in the shape of the body, to have the same propensities as during life, but to be corrected by a more enlightened understanding by which is readily distinguished from evil. Oh, so this is what the Tongans believe too. To know what's right from wrong, falsehood from good. Okay. So there you go. They have a lot of similarities, right? It's almost instinctive to them to have known these, having the same attributes as the original gods, but in a minor degree, and having its dwelling forever in the happy regions of Pulotu, holding the same rank as during life. So these are the Tongan beliefs. It has, however, the power of returning to Tonga to inspire priests, relations, or others, or to appear in dreams to those it wishes to admonish. See, we talked about spirits appearing in dreams. I talked about how the soul or the spirit, if the physical body is knocked out, what's the spirit doing in there? Or what is it doing contemplating, right? If the spirit doesn't sleep, then it is getting onto, or it's plugging itself into the realm or the frequency of the gods or the spirits, and it's communicating and right? It's a form of technology we don't know or understand totally yet. But that makes enough sense for us to say we woke up and we saw in a dream our, father or something or somebody. Well, if I was asleep, then who saw it? If it was recorded, if I was living it in my sleep, then my soul must have seen it because I'm unconscious. Anyway, that's the whole theory of the frequencies and how our souls and spirits are frequencies and how we're able to visit each other once we get into that level of meditation and pondering to be able to get to those frequencies to communicate to each other, right? Because that's all communication is frequencies. And sometimes to the external eye in the form of a ghost or apparition. Yeah, in Tonga, forget about it. They all believe that the spirits of their ancestors are still in Tonga. They all believe that. I know a lot of people that see things all the time in Tonga. They see spirits, not like out here where there's nothing, nobody, right? Maybe once in a while somebody might see something or something's haunted, but in Tonga it's like they live among them. It's freaking hilarious because not many of them are scared of them anymore at night, which is crazy. But this power of a reappearance at Tonga particularly belongs to the souls of chiefs rather than of Matapules. It was thought that Finau the First was occasionally visited by a deceased son of his, not visibly, but announcing his presence by whistling. Mr. Mariner once heard this whistling as he was with the king and some chiefs in a house at night lying on their mats. In the dark, and the sound appeared to come from a loft of the house. Mr. Mariner thinks this to have been some trick of Finau's. The natives believed it to be a spirit. It is to be observed that they consider it tapu to whistle as being disrespectful to the gods. It has already been stated that the gods are believed sometimes to enter into the bodies of lizards, porpoises, and water snakes. But this power belongs only to the original gods, not to the souls of chiefs. There is no future place of existence for the souls of men but Pulotu, and consequently, no state of future punishment. All rewards for virtue and punishments for vice being inflicted on mankind in this world as before noticed. When Mr. Mariner acquainted some of them with the Christian doctrine of eternal punishment, they said that it was very bad indeed for the Papalagis. So Mariner said, yeah, we believe in eternal damnation and fire and brimstone for eternity. And the talker was like, for real? Damn, that sucks to be you, bro. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, the Tongans believe so much. It's almost as if they got right into their guessing and their contemplating, their focusing, and their pondering of information as far as what they can gather either from missionaries from before or their own experiences. They went right all the way up to as far as they could go with their own research and their own, the extent their mind can meditate and think and contemplate, that they almost had it, right? They almost had that down. Um, GI Joe had him. Flag is backwards. When I record the video, I need to flip that flag back over, or flip it over, because it's obviously mirrored. But anyways, that is the religion of Tonga back then, back in the it's safe to say in the 1700s, because these old folks were all born in the 1700s. Mariner was 14, 15, but he said that Boigagogo was 25. Finau Ulukalala was in his 50s at least. He said there were some people in their 60s and 70s. He could tell that there was a man, that the one that he found and asked where the Fijians come from. He said that guy looked like he was in his 80s, right? So if that's the case, then these are beliefs of religion from the early 1700s. Because if Finau Ulukalala is in his 50s, then he was born before 1750, right? Which means he was born in the 1740s, and his father before them were either born in the early 17s or the 1600s. So we're just reading between the lines and connecting these dots as far as dates. But this is Tonga when Mariner got there in 1805. Religion, gods, rankings in society, rankings of the gods, and that freaking story of the turtles, spirits either haunting or spirits possessing, or whatever it is, tortoises or snakes, so on and so forth. But it seems like if they didn't have a distinct answer as recorded from old record like we do of the Bible, that they came up with their own answer. You know what I mean? So, having said that, that's that right there, fellas. That's chapter 5, the religious. So chapter 4 was of the, what was it? Rankings. Chapter 5 was religious. And let's see what chapter 6 is going to be about. The two personages, Tuitonga and Veakai. Religious heads. So it's going to be of the habits of the divine chiefs and priests. So that's what the next one is going to be about. So I got to get back to editing and all of that. Thank you for joining me today. Let's get it next time. Okay, Gaudama. Thanks for watching. Share, like, all of that. Comment, all of that. And we'll get through this this phase of this entire project, which is the live read into the image and sound into the rest. So, are there any questions or comments? If not, I'll flip that flag around next time. Okay, go Dubs.